Here we go. Friday night. What a great weekend, guys. Great to have everybody here. We've got a few panel members on the way. Mr. Badbit's going to be joining us. The Great Gaming Forte's on the way, as well as the Great Red Hood 420. Guys, just want to say shout out to everybody. What a great... listen, this is just... I don't care what side of the coin you're on. You're on the green side. You're on the blue side. You love Nintendo. Lord Metroid. Shout out to Lord Metroid who's in the chat. Big Nintendo fan. You know, this is unbelievable. I have not put the sticks down in like an unbelievable amount of time. We've been just gaming. And it doesn't stop tonight. It doesn't stop tonight. We're starting the gaming weekend off right here on CrossFire. I want to say shout out to everybody. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. It's also the change of temperature. I can't believe it. It's like 78 degrees in New York today. It's going to snow on Halloween, but it's 78 today. I'm kidding with the snow, but it's going to get cold. It's going to get cold. So everybody's allergies are probably crazy. I see everybody out there. Truth Serum. I see one nominal. What's going on, buddy? Great to see Texas Lean out there. Spider-Man's here. Spider-Man, great hit out there, buddy. Great to have you here. Guys, if you'll take a second and look at that outstanding description that I wrote for you guys. Right above that's the join button. And shout out to Biggity08 and a bunch of the great Kratos who was out there and gifted so many great membership subs. Really appreciate when the audience does that. I'm going to do a couple of polls, too, as we go through the show. I am planning to do a stream this weekend of Alan Wake 2. I'll start from the beginning, and we'll go through it. And I just want to see what the audience thinks, so I'll wait till kind of everybody kind of trickles in here. But shout out to Tarantino. Says, who's yelling? I'm yelling. I'm so excited. What a gaming holiday is here, folks. It's here early. But that being said, though, I want to say thanks to all the guys that support the channel. The Mooch Maniac family members, you're all here. You guys listen to the show. Archwar Angel, I see you. Chilean was here. The great Jimmy Harrison was here. But I got to call each one of these guys out one by one. I even see PlayStation 5 Sweden is here. We have Sweden represented in the house. Appreciate that as well. But let me give these guys a shout out because they just mean the world to me, as I also bring in the great Mr. Badbit and also the great Red Hood 420. But I'm going to go ahead and shout out Sir X-Man, JudaZuk, WoolleyGamer, MumbleRanting Gaming, Tyson Web 509, TrueWiddy, Alphonso Carter, BRAP, who can't make it with us tonight. Hopefully he's listening at the event he's at. Hopefully he'll be back next week, I hope. Jamie, Damion, the great Jimmy Harrison, who I know is listening and playing Alan Wake at the same time. Andy Hart, Red Hood 420, who you're going to hear from. Ham Solo 05. Shout out to Ham. Did a great interview earlier today with the great Seamus Blackley. So shout out to Ham Solo for getting a great guest. Rob Jones, Night Ripper 7, Toto Dope, Thumbs, JC 2013. There he is. Lord Metroid right there. Passive Prophet. Rabbit got the gun. PlayStation 5 Sweden, welcome to the family, buddy. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Fastbender, Archwar Angel, who's here, Biggity08, Slow-Mo Backslap. You guys know Slow-Mo as well as the Great Gaming Forte did DPS last night. Go over and check that show out as well. Thursdays, 9 o'clock Eastern. Henry Heck, Ice Queen Gaming, shout out to Dawn. Silent Merker was talking to me before the show. Great to see Silent here. Platinumed his Spider-Man game already. I'm jealous.
God bless.
I'm right. I'm jealous. I need to get there. Our Major Mooch Maniacs 4-star General, AD, Truth Serum, RPG 88, your boy Roy, Scolari Brothers, Smokes 901, DC Gaming, Miko, Gaming with Persona, and Jay Barry, who are back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. That's how I start my Saturdays. I recommend you guys with the What's Up PlayStation Boys. Pardon me. I really could use a sip of a Gatorade right about now. Tactical Gamer, Danelle Brown, That Guy Smitty, Brian B, a.k.a. Delirium Blades, and our VIP Mooch Maniacs, Shadow Assassin, Raji, Domino Zero, The Wise Old Gamer, and our honorable mentions are out there without food, water, or toilet. Please come home. Edward, Jordan, General Thad, Ape, Samurai, Supreme Samurai, pardon me, and the great Julian Johnson. And our forever Mooch Maniacs, shout out to the great Longshot 316 and the great Optimus Code. Guys, as everyone kind of trickles in, go ahead and tweet it out. Tell a family member. Retweet it. We're going to have a great night tonight, and there's a lot to talk about. I gave these guys 12 topics. I actually have a 13th topic that I wrote down that I didn't share with the panel, and we're probably only going to get to about 3 of them. That's not my That's not my fault. That's not my fault. That's just how good the conversation's going to be. That being said, Biggity08, thank you so much for those 5 memberships, buddy. That means so much. Shout out to Biggity08. Great, long-time Mooch Maniac family member. Really appreciate it, Biggity. Thank you. Guys, that being said, we got a great panel. We have some more folks coming in and a lot of topics. That being said, let's get right to it. I got to take another minute here just to say thanks and shout out to the great Button Basher. You guys know Basher. Basher, a couple of announcements. Basher is now joining CrossFire as a permanent panel member. Just an outstanding individual in the community. He's a part of the gaming developer world. I'm not going to get too much more into detail. I'll let him talk about that when he wants to talk about it. But he's in the business, so he knows what he's talking about. He's got great opinions. And also, I have to say thank you on the air. He gifted me Alan Wake 2 today, and I tip my cap and say thank you so much. He's been playing the game for a while, so he's going to get a chance to tell you guys, without spoilers, no spoilers, what he thinks of the game, and ask questions in the chat to Basher. He can answer them. So as everyone kind of shuffles in, we're going to be asking Basher some Alan Wake 2 questions. But Basher, welcome to the show. Officially have the keys to the show. Great to have you here. Basher, how you doing tonight? I think we lost Basher.
I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic. I'll cover for it. It's me, Button Basher. I'm just really nervous right now.
Can you guys hear me?
Now there you go. There you go,
okay,
buddy.
yeah, that sounds exactly like me. Holy shit. I'm doing great. Sweating my balls off out here. It's summertime in almost Halloween season.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. But I guess the heat goes with the heat that we got with all these games that we're playing. So that's great. I'm excited to be here. Excited to be part of the panel and give my input and do the best I can to answer questions in regards to games and what people are playing, what they want to know. And I just want to say, Mooch, I told you about Alan Wake. I fucking called it. I called it last episode.
You did.
And, you know, that's it. That's all. That's all. I'm going to drop the mic right there. I'm going to leave this podcast. I just want to say it. I called it.
That's so great, buddy.
The buttons have been bashed.
I love it. I love it. Basher has actually been on fire behind the scenes. So shout out to Basher for everything. Basher, you're really going to be a highlight tonight. We're going to be going to for a lot of different things. Shout out to the great Mag who's here. Mag, how about Xbox forcing Brazil into digital increases with no choice? Still think studio consolidation is a good idea? Question mark. Trust no company. Great show. Mag, me and Mag have something to announce later. It's going to be great at another point in time. But shout out to the great Mag who's here with us tonight. Our Canadian brethren up there. Another fellow Italian. I still think he should move to New York. But that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. What do I know? Shout out to that guy, Smitty. 2023 best year in gaming ever. And again, I want to say thanks so much to Biggity08 for those gifted subs. All right, listen, this is going to be a great show. I got to get right to him right away. He came in, he did his best impersonation of Basher that he could do. Basher's a little bit of a deeper voice here, but the great Mr. Badbit is back, and you have to have Badbit on because this man is a true gamer. Games came out. He loves video games. The Trophy Podcast is unbelievable. The PlayStation Trophy Podcast. I love the show you do, Badbit. How you doing this evening?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to talk about Spider-Man. I'm excited to talk about just all the web slinging because I got the platinum as well.
Yes.
I'm excited to ask all the questions about Alan Wake because Kyle got to play it and not me. So I'm just excited. I'm just excited to talk games with y'all. So I'm doing fantastic.
Well, honestly, buddy, it's great to hear that. And you know what? You just liven up the whole show. I love every second.
Well, thanks.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely. Listen, these next two guys, I tried to give them a bit of a break because they go from podcast to podcast. He's back with us tonight. He's super opinionated. And tonight's one of those nights that I really think he may give me a run for my money with how loud he gets. The great Supernova Gaming is back. Nova, great to have you back on the show, buddy. When I saw the topics today, you even said it. You're like, okay, yeah, I'll be back on. I'm like, Nova, you got to come on. How you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, I'm happy to be back. Yeah, they're definitely topics that are right up my alley since I'm more PlayStation centric in my my gaming. So for sure.
Well, it's great to have you, buddy, and you're all warmed up, so we're going to go to you as well as in the early parts of the show. The great Red Hood 420 is with us. Let me tell you something. It is very difficult to book this man. This man is wanted across the entire YouTube community. We finally got him on the show. I'm very excited to be able to talk games with him. And, you know, maybe it's just one of those things where the cards fell the right way, Red, because you're on tonight. We've got a lot of games to talk about. We got a lot of news to talk about. Red, you might have just held out for the right show. Red, how you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Like, honestly, like every time we were trying to get me on, it was just like stuff was getting in the way, but definitely glad to be on and definitely glad to have this panel here as well as guests. It's going to definitely be a good show. And like I said, a lot of games came out. I finally beat Spider-Man 2. We're going to work on the Platinum. Played a little bit of Alan Wake 2 as well. So it's going to be awesome.
I don't know what it is with me. I must have some sort of OCD or something. Anyone who's watched me on Twitch, and you guys will see it this weekend, maybe it's because I have to get every collectible. The minute anything in Spider-Man pops up, anything on the map pops up, That's where I'm swinging to. That's where I'm going.
Oh no, trust me. Like I did everything besides the Mysterium or whatever. Like basically the combat challenge is.
Oh, dude, I love.
That's the only thing I didn't get to do. But everything else, I did literally everything.
Yeah, I got the
Spider bots, all that stuff. Spider bots, I gotta say, definitely you guys should do that. If you watch a certain movie franchise, definitely ties into that. I don't want to spoil that, but it's really cool because it's like a deleted character, I believe, and across the it was something like that. I was about to say a deleted character.
I don't even know what you're talking about. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
A little Easter egg for you guys on CrossFire. Well, listen, actually, Mr. Babbitt, before we even get to our first topic, I have a question for you, but first, let me introduce the Great Gamers Gamut. Gamut, honestly, also, I believe, I don't want to put words in it, but I know he's very far along as well. I believe in Spider-Man. If he didn't already finish it, I might be the only one left on the panel that needs to get some work done on this weekend. Gamut, how you doing tonight, buddy? Can't wait to go over topics and games with you as well.
I'm doing great. I am about 50% through Spider-Man. I am milking the shit out of this game. Anytime I see a side objective, I'm swinging through the city to go get it. I might be swinging through the city looking for spider bots as we speak during this podcast, but we'll keep that between ourselves.
We'll keep that.
It's great. It's great to be here with the great Mooch. Hey, it's photo mode too, man. That takes up so much time. Great photo mode. But it's great to be here with all of you. The Mooch is great. I've been listening to him since Mooch and Crap back in the day before every Sunday football.
Oh, yes.
And it's great. It's great to be here with Mr. Badbit from the Trophy Room podcast. I listen to that every single week. Supernova, super opinionated. I love talking with him on Twitter. So I'm super excited. Button Basher, the new member. It's going to be a great show. Let's get it.
It really, really is. Now I do have to ask a question. Mr. Badbit, you just came to mind because I know you keep great notes in your game taking. So the Mysterio quest, those items that are pop up on screen. In the last game, you had to get above what used to be what was it called? They called it a superior rating. I couldn't remember what it was in the original.
Something like that, yeah.
That or ultimate, one or the other.
Yeah. But to get the trophy, you had to get above a superior rating in those challenges. The Mysterio ones seemingly are the ones that take the places of those. So is this where you have to get above a silver, or do they give it to you for just completion?
I believe they give it to you for just completion. Because I and humble brag, I'm just real good in this game. So like I made sure every time I got to one of them, I completed it. Like the hardest one there is the one where you have to defeat 20 enemies in less than a minute. That took me several tries, but like I got there. So I don't think there's a difficulty like slider that's like holding you back. I think just by completing them, you're doing the side story to that. So yeah, I don't. My take is I lean on no. You don't need to.
So yeah, honestly, we're getting back up here from the.
Is just to level up your character, like save those for the end. If you're having trouble, level up.
Like with all Miles's abilities.
Yeah, and you'll waste them, like especially when you have that Venom Surge or Miles' ability, where he does that giant fucking electrical explosion and then knocks out enemies. That knocks those dudes out almost instantaneously. It's a way easier way.
Yeah, and I think it like recharges your abilities too. On top of that.
Yeah, so that's the best way to do that.
No, listen, I'm getting, and you guys are all being reinforced by the audience. The audience is saying it's just a completion this time. But this is the reason that if I go by the percentage before you click, when you're going through the main menu and you click on your last save profile, I think I'm somewhere around the little over 50%, 56, 57%. But when I say 56, 57%, that's not the main story. Like that's like everything. I have my entire thing wiped out. I've done all the hunters. Things that have popped up. I've done every Mysterio. I think I've done it. It feels like I've done almost 10 Mysterios. Maybe I've only done 8 or 9, but I've done everyone that's highlighted. I've done all of the ones where you're chasing the birds. Not the birds like in the way the first one was, but the way you have to actually like fly through and the robotic.
Dude, you should definitely do the birds. Because there's like this final thing that happens. Gives a little like reference to Web of Shadows, like a certain like song.
Oh, okay.
I was like, that's pretty cool.
Well, listen, you're preaching to the choir. I'm going to finish everything. But the problem I was going to say, though, Badbit, the reason I'm not escalating and moving as fast as everybody else is I've done all the Mysterios to gold. Like, I have one left to get to gold. Yeah, I just don't want to move on. This is a problem. I can't move on in games because I have to, like, everything has to be perfect. It's such a problem. That being said, let's get to tonight's topics, guys. Please, guys, on the way, hit that like button. Tweet it out. Everybody here right now I know has a Twitter. I see all you guys on Twitter. Take the link. Here's the link. I'm putting it in the chat. Just annoy everybody that follows you. Tell them Crossfire's live. Tell them Mooch sent you. Let's do this, all right? Here we go. Now, I'm going to start with you, Basher, on this, because I do want to talk, as the audience kind of shuffles in and we get to the real meat and potatoes around the 1 hour mark. I want to talk to you a little bit about Alan Wake. Now, you said that this game, you told me a week, maybe 10 days ago, upwards of 10 days, this game was going to be something special. Now, the first one, I think, fell a bit flat for some folks. I'm not saying for everybody in the audience or who's listening later, but it fell flat a bit. Where does this, and again, we're doing no spoilers. Everybody relax, there's no spoilers. Basher, where does this one elevate the game? You told me this was a possible Game of the Year contender over a week ago, and you're still standing by it. So, Basher, what separates this? What was the gigantic leap from the first one to what we're playing this weekend?
Well, I think Remedy learned a lot from Control and what they put out with Control originally, but yeah, I played the preview for this game a while back, and we got a chance to get my hands on it for Xbox Series X, which it was running great. And I that was immediately the first thing that stood out to me was the performance mode and how it looked and how it was running in that performance mode. There was really no degradation because of obviously things like FSR and what have you, all these new kinds of AI stuff that they can do for graphics. But the game itself, I think this game will suit people very well that are into Stephen King and like True Detective and like these noir type of dramas. From the original to this one, there's been a giant leap as far as, of course, graphically. From a storytelling perspective, the biggest thing for me also is the Mind Palace and how you can go and switch between Saga and the Mind Palace back and forth so quickly, and it's so fluid that it's just extremely impressive. It's almost like you're doing two different games because the Mind Palace is used for solving these mysteries and the beginning of the game, I'm not going to get into spoilers, but the beginning of the game is definitely a punch in the face for sure. And as far as why when I first played this game, why I thought it was going to be phenomenal, was the fact of just the whole feeling of the game. I'm really into Stephen King novels, really into noir detective dramas. I love like mysteries, and that is exactly like Twin Peaks, that kind of style of storytelling, and that is exactly what I felt when I started this game. And for me, it immediately stood out where I was like, a lot of people are sleeping on this thing for Game of the Year. Obviously, Remedy, I think at this point in time, what's going to happen is that a lot of people are going to say like, hey, why did an Xbox buy Remedy? They should have, because they are an extremely talented studio. Also, I'm going to get into the fact that when you play the game, Sam Lake is in the game. I don't know if you guys are familiar who that is. Basically, the guy who made Max Payne, and he was the face of Max Payne. And
I've been following Sam Lake for years.
What's up?
He's in like all of them, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in all of them. But he's it's so weird to play this game because he's like your partner, and his face, and he sounds exactly like the original Max Payne. So it's just weird to see that and see him talking and be a cop, an FBI agent, and he sounds like, for like, not to get off topic, but the Max Payne 3 for me was one of my favorite games. But the one thing about it was that it was missing that voice acting that he would bring to the table. And in this, it's like a little, just a little nod to Max Payne from Remedy. And yeah, I'm loving the game so far. I have not completed it. I'm taking my time with it. And yeah, I mean, it's not surprising at all that it's getting the praise that it has gotten so far.
Let's talk about this. And Basher, let me ask you this question. By the way, panel, feel free to jump in too if you've played it or if you plan to play it. But my question, as far as performance-wise, Basher, a lot of people, we saw the tech specs that came out for PCs. It really looked like they were saying they were catering to high-rig PCs, high tech specs. You had to have like at least a 3070 to get the path tracing and the ray tracing and this and that. Yeah. I mean, how are the consoles handling it? I know I believe you've played it on Xbox. I believe you've also played it on PlayStation. But how are the consoles handling how does it look? Is there ray tracing present? Is it a 60 frame smooth experience?
Yes, the performance mode runs perfect. The thing about this game too is it's very dark, so like the art style of it fits very well with the performance mode. It's not like what you would get with like a Spider-Man game, right, where everything is very vibrant, colorful. So when things are running in a performance mode, you can tell a lot more, especially with draw distances. this game is very much shrouded in mystery. There's woods and dirt and grime and mud and reflections in the water, and like there's the violence behind it, and it runs fantastic in performance mode. I did switch it to fidelity mode, and to be honest with you, it runs really well in that mode as well. But I didn't really see a big difference when it came to visual fidelity, switching to performance mode on PlayStation 5, which is where I own it. So I would recommend playing it in performance mode. I think the PC issue is obviously coming down to optimization once again. Like, path tracing is super high intensive. That's expected, especially when you look at something like Cyberpunk or what have you, and what they're doing with that, and where you need like a 480 to get all that running at a frame rate that can work for you. But there is no reason why, from a PC level, they should have asked for so much. I have not seen it running on a high-end PC. I don't know how much different it looks in comparison to consoles. I'm sure.
Yeah, I have it running on a PC. Like my specs are freaking high, like 4090. Was it 64 gigs of RAM, 7800X 3D, right? And highest settings possible with DLSS quality on 4K. With frame gen on, it's like 70-ish frames, which is a little bit too low, because that's with frame gen on, right? So without frame gen, was it like 30 FPS or something like that? I would assume.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty demanding game. Now I think it definitely can be optimized well, but like I said, path tracing is very
super
demanding.
Yeah, it's not surprising at all. I just think that right now, for me, if you don't have a rig like Red Hood has, it's the best experience you're going to get with this game right now is going to be on console, hands down. If you don't have freaking thousands of dollars to throw out on a 480 and a rig that would run this properly. So yeah, I would recommend that. As far as the game is concerned too, like, I don't know why it's so like taxing on PCs, because it's not an open world game in that sense. It doesn't have like a large scope to it. So I'm not, but what I can tell you is that right now, I truly believe that this game is probably one of the best looking games of this generation. Graphically.
Well, so
it's
you guys,
phenomenal looking.
Let me go to Mr. Badbit here. Mr. Badbit, you hear exactly what Basher's saying, and there's just so many games that are in the Game of the Year category. Mr. Babbitt, have you gotten a chance to play? There really is, which is a good thing for us, right? We always say we're eating good. Boy, we're eating good this year.
Yeah.
Mr. Babbitt, do you think this is a Game of the Year contender? Have you gotten a chance to put any time into it?
Kyle did his review for the trophy room this week. He was lucky enough to get his hands on it. And he was glowing. This is coming from someone who, fell in love with what Remedy was doing with Control, and then went back and went, I'm just going to discover all these games. Remedy's a developer I hold in high esteem because of the way that they tell their narratives, the atmosphere that they set. It's like what Basher's saying. It feels like this is like the gaming equivalent to a Stephen King, right?
Yes.
So to
True
me, True Detective. So like to me, I as much as I love Control, I loved Max Payne back in the day. I never got my hands on Alan Wake, but one of the things that Kyle was talking to me when we were doing the review.
Yeah,
he was talking about the Mind Palace and how it's essentially your pause menu, but it doesn't pause the game. You're going through things. You're going through these case files, and effectively, how he said it, like Charlie and Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You're with the yarn, tracing what's ever going on, in the world around you. You're trying to solve that mystery, and while you're in your Mind Palace, the world is still going on around you. Which I think is really cool. So it's the thing that sold me on the game, where he was talking about a moment where it's just like, you never feel safe, even when you're in the Mind Palace, because the game is still live. Things could still come up and mess you up. And the animation, from what I understand, is and just the characters as well. When you're in the Mind Palace and you're with your partner, and you're in there for a minute, you'll come back to reality and your partner's like, so you've been gone for a while. like,
The dialogue is definitely so well written in that fact with the Mind Palace, because you can literally be in a fight and then you'll, like, if you go into the Mind Palace, like it's perfectly narrated to like, what are you doing? Where are you going right now?
And
like that kind of scenario.
The
It's
one
cool.
thing that Kyle keeps on like hyping up is, and I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this. I want to know what you think, Basher. Is the animation work in this game is really impressive.
Oh,
So
super.
you know, you'll be talking to someone, you'll be like interrogating them, and I was like kind of like LA Noire. It's like, but not in your face about it, where it's like you're talking to them and it's the subtle movements in their face. You kind of really get all of what the actor is trying to express in the frame. And even just their movements feel just like how people would move. And I was like, okay, like even just like after the fact, when you're walking away from a conversation, you peer backwards, it feels like there is a world happening around you. It doesn't move the plot without you, but it's moving around you. And it's immersive.
I haven't seen faces this good since Last of Us Part 2.
That's awesome. So like,
Yeah.
it's those little things that get me really excited. When I was talking to him about like, performance or fidelity, he's just like, honestly, with this game, he's like, I did performance, I did fidelity. The mileage doesn't like varies. Like if you're really a stickler for the 4K, 30 FPS, whatever, go for it. But you're not missing out on anything from what he can tell from, going to performance. He's telling me this is one of the most beautiful games he's ever seen, where it seems like any moment he could stop and take a snapshot of it, and it feels like it should be in the press kit. Like this could be just
So
on the advertising.
To get into like what Mooch was talking about before about he's a completionist. This game, there's a lot of things you can collect things. Of course, there's little collectibles in the world, but the thing that really gets me in this game is when you go into the Mind Palace, they go over scenarios of the murders and what's going on and like the situation at hand, and you're approaching that in a manner to which is like you're solving this in a way that you would. So like they give you the information, they put it on a board, and then you're approaching these murders and what's going on, but you're looking at it from a perspective of somebody, like if you read a lot and you're like looking at the little evidence that they give you on this board, you start to ask yourself questions like, oh, well, what does this mean? Okay, what does that mean? Okay, why was this person killed in that manner? Is that indicative of why that body was that way? And why was this person's heart ripped out? And this happened to this individual. And in the Mind Palace, they give you that freedom to look at all this stuff and kind of start to build your own narrative, so to speak, in what you're approaching. So I believe that, like, I think if you're going to play this game, the best way to play it would be to take the time to go into the Mind Palace and really read and look at all the evidence and look at what's compiling in front of you and start to try and like almost see if you can guess the narrative and where it's going. I guarantee you won't, because Remedy is just they're just craftsmen at that. But it's super cool to be able to do that and have that ability to see everything in front of you prior and things that are examples to what you are inevitably going to confront, but you're looking at it from a perspective of yourself and like how you start to ask yourself questions and you start to try and solve the mysteries yourself. It's kind of a mind fuck, but it's cool.
Yeah, but that's Sam Lake in a nutshell. That's Sam.
Yeah.
That's the best thing about Remedy, for sure.
Absolutely.
Is the psychological thriller aspect.
It's definitely got a little X-Files vibe to it as well, if I had to be honest.
I gotta say, shout out to the great God Emperor Sofa King. He is our resident troll, and I love it. God Emperor Sofa King. By the way, I talk to Sofa King on Twitter. We DM each other. Great guy. He goes, RoboCop over Alan Wake 2. Then he just starts laughing. RoboCop. I think RoboCop's going to give us a great flashback to that arcadey feel that we've all been missing for so long. But I have been following Sam Lake for so long now on Twitter, and he really is. I think Mr. Badbit had said it, but it's funny because when he said it, I started smiling. A coworker of mine, he goes, "What is the whole deal with this Alan Wake you're talking about?" And I said, he's basically our Stephen King in the gaming world. I said the same thing. I said it the other day in the office. Honestly, it's so true. He's just got this mind that if you've played Control and if you went to those TVs in Control and you saw the puppet animations that they were doing, and I say this with how do I put it? as a compliment. It's such a deranged type of thought, and I loved it. I absolutely thought it was phenomenal. It was an unbelievable way to just he's like it's art. He's just an artist. He writes novels. He makes games. Just a genuine person.
So good.
One of the only people, Gamut, that he reminds me of is what is it now? The Ken Levine from the BioShock franchise. Ken is also an artist. You know. That's why his games and Sam's are so polarizing. You know, you have audiences go, I love Alan Wake, or I love Sam Lake's work. I don't. You know, and it's like it's such a great conversation to have. That's why
he's a huge cinephile, by the way, and that's indicative to. So I believe right now in the gaming industry, there's two individuals to which would make phenomenal fills. There's Neil Druckmann and there's Sam Lake. Sam Lake is definitely a David Fincher.
I'll throw one.
I think Kojima would fit.
Yeah, Kojima.
Kojima, of course, we all.
Yeah.
I
think all those film guys like make really good video games, man.
Yeah, I mean, but Sam Lake is definitely like David Fincher territory. You could tell like there's a lot of inspirations for like the movie Seven, things of that magnitude, and like the brutal, grisly violence and the dark tones.
I also love the vibe, like he has like this kind of like Americana vibe though of like, but like translated in Swedish, you know what I mean? Or is he Swedish? Or he's from Helsinki. I always forget. But it's like this European take of like this is what America is, right? Like, but like in a serious manner of like he got it all from. You're right, like the movie Seven. Like I love that about him. I really do.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's funny. So Cal in the chat, he says Control story couldn't grab me. Again, you know, Cal, it's hard for me to have this conversation. It would have to be a 2 or 3 hour show just on that. I platinumed Control, played it through twice actually. I really loved it.
Game is a mind fuck.
It is a mind
fuck. It was
awesome. It really is.
It's amazing.
Cal, if you have listen, you probably have a million games to play right now. This is not the time for me to tell you to go play Control. But if over the holiday break you have, you know, a week and a half and you've conquered the games you wanted to, really go take a second and try that again. Shout out to Wild Wolf. Shout out to Leo. Great to see Leo here. He always supports the channel from Gaming with the Box. He's always a great guy. Love Leo. Great gamer. Henry Hex here too. He says, what's good, Mooch? Guys, please hit the like button. Tweet it out. Let people know that we're live. Does anybody, Supernova, what's your take on anything on Alan Wake? I do want to start to get to some of the topics that would bring CrossFire to life tonight with some of the debates that may go on.
Can I just say real quick to Cal, you should grab an edible and then play Control and thank me later.
Yeah.
If it's legal in your state, I'll make that little caveat. There you are, Basher. I protected you. Nova, what do you think?
No, I was saying that I really don't have much to say on it. I just know I played the first Alan Wake and didn't care for it, so I'm not really looked that into the second one. I think it looks awesome from everything I've seen. Like graphically, it looks awesome, and it's obviously reviewing really well. But it's just not something that I have a whole lot of input on because I didn't really finish the first one, and I haven't played the second one yet.
Fair enough.
Okay, absolutely.
All right, so let me hop in here for a real second, if you don't mind. So I haven't played Alan Wake 1. It's on my PS5. It's ready to go. I've played a few chapters, so I'm looking forward to getting caught up. But I have played a ton of Control, and I really absolutely love that game. A lot of people have thrown out the name Stephen King, but I'll go with the name Stanley Kubrick. If you like movies like Stanley Kubrick movies, it's like a psychological thriller. It just, man, the Remedy has finally like zoned in on this pulse of psychological thriller games that are just so good. Control is absolutely amazing. It's actually inspired me to go back and play Alan Wake Remastered, which I'm working on right now, and then I'm going to hop right into Alan Wake 2. I cannot wait. Remedy has been on fire lately. Absolutely on fire.
So, Gamut, you're not even going to jump in head first. I got about halfway through Alan Wake 1. And listen, you guys have to understand something. Basher's the one that got me really, really excited for Alan Wake 2 10 days ago. He really kind of amped it up. The problem I had with the first Alan Wake, I love the story. Of course, Sam Lake, great. I just, the mechanics and it dealing with strictly the flashlight, and you have to shine the flashlight, then shoot the gun, and the ammo scares.
About it.
Luigi's Mansion ripped it off, man.
Yeah, they did. They really did. Although, I'm sure Lord Metroid is angry right now and typing in the chat. He's going to take offense to that, Basher, in a good way, naturally. So yeah, Gamut, if you're going to go through the Alan Wake remastered, then go to this? I tip my cap to you, and I really am interested. Hit me up on Twitter or PlayStation, anywhere. Let me know what you think when you get to the end of that. Maybe I'm actually going to go right into 2, and if 2 is as good as Basher's telling me it is, then I'll go back and finish. Like I said, I'm probably about 40-50% through remastered, and I just stopped.
You don't need to complete 1 to enjoy 2. It's not something to which you're going to be missing out if you don't do that.
That's
it's just
refreshing.
Like from a lore perspective, but it's a completely different story and narrative. So you'll be fine if you don't complete it.
Okay, well, here's what I'm going to do, guys. I'm moving over to our next topic here. That's our Alan Wake. Honestly, I just like this focus and spotlight. We are in the gaming season, so I want to talk games, but the news of the week is also very, very big. I want to start with the Xbox partner preview that aired this week. One of the gripes, and I'm going to read real quick. I'm going to go down a real quick list here of the games that were shown. One of the gripes I saw coming from the Xbox camp was they were hoping, I think, to see more of these games that were shown going to be on Game Pass day one, and that wasn't the case. We have, of course, let me see here. I have a few of them here. Metal Gear, of course. Alan Wake 2. Great. Alan Wake 2 was shown. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which is coming out in January, was shown. Manor Lord was shown. A first look at the Ark Survival game. That one was RoboCop. Still Wake the Deep. Dungeons of Hinterberg. I think I'm saying that right. Spirits of the North 2. These are abbreviated. The Finals, which we'll talk about for a bit. And it goes on and on. There's a few others. Nothing really here that was massive. So I guess I'll go ahead and start here. Let me go ahead and just ask. I'll ask Supernova. Nova, did you catch the preview? Did you catch the partner preview? A. B. This is very similar to what Sony did when they did a third-party presentation. They didn't really show a lot of first-party, and they went all third-party just to have a show. I thought it was good on that front. I thought Xbox was okay on the other front, and but people really didn't seem to clamor to it. The numbers are low on the showing of this. It didn't seem like a lot of people showed up for it. What did you think, Nova?
I didn't watch it, and it's honestly probably the first presentation from either of these companies that I didn't watch, just because I heard it was going to be third party and nothing that we really hadn't seen before. So I was like, I'll catch the recap on it, and so I caught the recap on it, and I was like, all right, cool. As far as to people being upset that not enough of the games are going day one in Game Pass, it's like, guys, you can't get every game day one in Game Pass. Like, that shit costs money. They have to pay money to get things day one in Game Pass. And I don't know. It's the dumbest thing. It's like, you guys have how many games in Game Pass? You get all first party games day one, and you still want more shit, day and date in Game Pass. It's like,
you guys got Call of Duty. You guys gotta be enough.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially with that leak, I think it shows how much they're actually, paying for these third party titles.
And then I hate the mentality where they're always like, oh, well, it's not my money. I'm not worried about it. If they just shut down, I'll go to the next place. Like, why would you want anything to shut down or fail? Like, you don't have to be sitting there and doing their, the audits of their financials, but you should still be kind of concerned about what they're spending and what they're making. Because if you like the company, when you like the service, you would want it to stay around. And expecting every game to be day and date and Game Pass is a real quick way for that service to no longer be around.
That's an interesting point that we kind of got to talk about. And I mean, I know, Basher, I've talked to you a little bit about this in the past. This is what Xbox is kind of building right now. They're building this mentality right now where if a game is shown and it's not in Game Pass, they'll say, I'll wait for Game Pass. And they're not buying the games. And that's the thing. You're seeing that in the sales that are shown. There's sales shown, physical sales that are shown. They're not buying a lot of the games. Is Xbox in one way doing very, very good in the intentions of Game Pass and getting Game Pass to be that thought process for the Xbox ecosystem, but also maybe kind of shooting themselves in the foot when it comes to third-party games and publishers? That may be rubbing the publishers the wrong way. Do you feel that could be happening or not really?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to look at what Microsoft is trying to do here. I think there's no secret that Microsoft at this point in time is not really interested in consoles or selling consoles or building themselves into this like PlayStation or Nintendo type of company at this point in time. I think they are more or less looking to get their application, in this case Game Pass, across the ecosystem in every way, shape, and form. If they could, they'd probably put it on PlayStation as well, if they could.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when you it's kind of a business model that they're focusing on right now. I don't think they really care about people not buying physical games. I think in essence, these people are all insiders to what they're seeing numbers, and they're already kind of weird with the numbers they output and let people know about. But I think there's no surprise either that physical media is probably on its way to inevitably in the next 10 years being completely irrelevant. And they know this, and they're focusing right now on keeping that subscription-based model of access to content quick and easy as their main priority, because they see things like Netflix, they see things like streaming services. We see it even happening like the movie theater industry, right? Where movies are struggling still in cinema.
But
people don't really go to cinema as much anymore.
Basher, if I could just interrupt you for a second, though, the one thing I want to bring to attention, though, and this is I'm paraphrasing, Sean Layden had said, one of the concerns when it comes to things like subscription services is the lack in creativity as things go forward. And if I could just use your examples, now these are different types of media consumed. So I'm not talking about dollar for dollar here. I'm just talking about output. The shows that are on Netflix are subpar. They're not very good. Most of them.
They're ass though. Yeah, I agree with you.
I listen to again. Nova, we'll get to the price in a second because Nova, I know me and you are very loud about that on Twitter. But the other thing is I see at least once a week a comment, and then it's tweeted by the thousands, retweeted out by the thousands of people saying music's not what it used to be. And music's on a lot of streaming services. Like, it seems like when you go to streaming services, a bit of the quality is dropped. And a lot of it, I gave this analogy a long time ago, is when I said, if you guys can envision this in the chat or on the panel, when you were to go do your own startup business and you have to pay to keep the lights on, pay your employees, pay for their vacations, pay for health insurance, everything is on you. You bust your hump, man. You work your ass off to make sure that business thrives and puts out the best product so you have customers coming to buy your product over and over again. Once you have $1 trillion company or anything, a big conglomerate, take over that. And then your lights are paid for, this and that. There's no real rush on schedule. I mean, you might go, well, what do you mean there's no rush on schedule, Mooch? Yes, that's what I mean. Halo Infinite bumped a full year. Starfield bumped a full year. You don't really have that option sometimes when you're an independent company. You just want to put out your best product over and over and over again. You don't have that kind of ability to have that time shift. So I'm seeing this, and so when you say media is changing in that they're going to, Microsoft sees the long road in physical disc. Fine, physical discs are probably going to be gone in 10 years. I'll buy that, Basher. But the one thing that may not be gone in 10 years is still buying digital content, which is what's happening on PlayStation and Nintendo. You can buy digital content and you own that digital content, and you're building your own library.
Yeah. I think, well, first of all, let's call out the elephant in the room. It is an impossibility right now to have these kind of AAA titles that Sony puts out that they're famous for to be on things like Game Pass and like these subscription-based services from a monetary standpoint. If we're going to keep getting games like that on a subscription service, then it's unlike Netflix at this point in time, where Netflix has grabbed their users, they have them in the bucket, and they're like, okay, now we're going to raise prices because we have them in the bucket, and we're going to give subpar content. It's kind of a business strategy at the end of the day. And I think that when it comes to talking about Game Pass, I think Microsoft knows that the stuff that comes out on Game Pass is essentially like the third-party stuff, and the games to which are, they're like B grade games, or games that might not sell as well if they were to do their own kind of release. And even from their AAA title standpoint, we've seen, it's no coincidence that we've seen a kind of a downfall of the AAA quality of Microsoft and what they're putting out ever since they promised day one on Game Pass with AAA content.
Well, it adds this extra pressure, right? Like, it adds this extra pressure. You got to feed the beast, and I think they constantly feel that pressure.
People got to get paid at the end of the day, and you got to have some sort of ROI, and to ask for that on a streaming service that is going to cost you $10 a month or $12 a month or $13. It is an impossibility from a business standpoint. It's not going to happen. If you want something that's going to give you titles like The Last of Us, like even what Halo and Gears used to be, right? Let's stop using PlayStation as an example, but those classic experiences that we used to get, these AAA big budget titles, these commercials that we would get with Halo, where you would see Master Chief in an army of people and to be real actors and to be showing him giving his life to this war and all these things that we fell in love with. All that stuff goes away when you're pitching and you're going through a subscription-based service. It becomes more streamlined. It becomes you lose that kind of that like nostalgic great feeling that you have. So I think that I even though yes I do work for Microsoft, I at the same time I'm not a huge proponent on Game Pass because I'm a gamer and I love games. I think that games are especially AAA games and experiences, and I think that asking for that in a subscription-based model to that caliber is an impossibility. And in order for us to get that, we're going to have to start paying more for games and more for these subscription services. Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with you 100%. Is it something to which is the ideal scenario for the gaming environment? Absolutely not, if you ask me. That's my opinion at the end of the day. It's not a fact, but it's my opinion from what I've seen.
Let me ask Red. Red, let me get you in this. Red, you got a big opinion on this. I know that. I mean, you know, listen, I know you PC game predominantly, but listen, let's talk about that for a minute, okay? I mean, you buy your games on Steam, and I don't care if you buy them on Steam. I don't care if you buy them by CD keys. The point of the matter is you buy the game. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, Red, where are you on all of this? And I see a lot of people in the chat going, Mooch, you don't get it. You just don't get it. If I don't get it, Red, then can you tell me why is it that Microsoft dropped the Game Pass growth pay target for the CEO and they've moved it to another? They had to move the goalpost to another type of measuring of success because Game Pass growth it's not happening at the rate that they wanted to.
So I think a lot of people are coming from like the angle of they're a Game Pass, consumer, right? So for them, it's a good service, right? I can't ever disagree with Game Pass. I think for what they're getting, it's great value, right?
With the value, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because like they're getting games, right? And they're getting, I think, The Man Who Erased His Name in November or something like that. And they're getting Persona 3 Reload and all these other games that are coming out, right? So I can't ever argue that whether or not the Game Pass growth, like it's being delayed and we're not getting real updates with it. Like, I think they're really hoping for Activision Blizzard to get their games start rolling and pumping through and seeing if that growth will continue or increase greatly.
Right.
Because it could or it couldn't. Like, I do think it will, but to what degree, I don't think anyone truly knows. But I think Call of Duty is going to be big for that, fan base in terms of, hey, I don't have to pay for Call of Duty, so I could just, pay through Game Pass because they're still paying. It's just they're not paying the game; they're just paying a subscription each month.
So, Red, I ask this question all the time. Red, I'll ask you. So that is true, right? That's what everyone says every single time. Like, well, once Call of Duty's in there, people will want to go there. But Minecraft is a large game, very big game. Minecraft is in Game Pass. That didn't stop people from that. That didn't make people not buy a PS5 this generation. Like, I'm just saying, Game Pass getting Call of Duty is big. I'm not making light of that. It is a big get. But is it the say all end all when it comes down to people saying, oh, okay, I'm going to get rid of, I have a PSVR 2. I got a PlayStation Portal. I got games on PlayStation 4 that are digital that come over to PS5. I built my PS5 library. You know what? The hell with that. I'm going to save $70 and pay $16.99 a month instead and play Call of Duty over there.
I mean, of course, when you're embedded within an ecosystem, it's harder to convince somebody that is invested a bunch of time and money and go to a competing platform, right? Does it happen? Yeah. Like it happened with me when it came to, from PlayStation to PC. But does that happen to majority of people? Yeah, no, it really doesn't. But you have to incentivize people to want to jump and make that transition. And I do got to say, it's like, I had to address this. It's like, guys, I do realize Persona 3 Reload is coming to PlayStation. Like, that's insane for you, to think that I wouldn't know that. It's like, I have a PC, it's coming to Steam. I know it's coming to PlayStation. I know it's coming to Switch. It's pretty, self-observant to, know something like that.
I don't think the Activision conversation and Call of Duty moving the needle for Xbox Game Pass to me, it's kind of irrelevant. I hear a lot of people saying that, but the reality is this, right? Most people who own game consoles right now own a PlayStation 5. It's a top-selling console, or a PlayStation. Let's just put it that way, right? They see Call of Duty come out. Nobody's going to go out, like, let's say you don't, like, you probably want a PlayStation 5, but you see it coming to Xbox, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, it's going to be on Game Pass day one. But the thing is, most of those people are probably just going to buy the game, especially the hardcore players are going to buy the game to have it in their library and keep it forever because they love Call of Duty. They're not going to go out and buy a Series X for $500 to get Call of Duty from there on out because it's not going to make sense. Because what if the subscription goes up? They don't really have, they don't own the game per se. It's not theirs. It's on Game Pass as a subscription service. So I don't really think that conversation of moving the needle with Call of Duty is going to make a huge impact. Because again, it's not about where you're putting this game. It's about what consoles are in the ecosystem and what is that comprised most of, which in this case is PlayStation.
It's not the thing that everyone that's on PlayStation, if they're already Call of Duty guys, let's say, so they already pay for PS Plus, they already do that, and then they already buy the game every year. So now, if Call of Duty comes out and it's, you know, you can get it on Game Pass without paying the $70, well, they already currently pay for PS Plus. It would be cheaper just to buy Call of Duty.
Exactly.
And own it, and then continue to play exactly how. Why are they going to pay $200 to play it on another console, which they may or may not already have? So that's $200 plus another $300. That's if they didn't have an Xbox. Even if they did, that's still $200 a year.
I think the only world to which this works, where somebody would say, "Fuck having a console, I'm just going to get Game Pass," is a world to which cloud streaming and game streaming is equivalent to playing a game on your console directly from a bandwidth perspective. I don't think, because in that case, then it's like somebody wants to play Call of Duty, they could just download Game Pass on their TV, play Call of Duty right away. It starts up, it plays just like there's no the latency is spot on, everything is perfect.
Well, if you want to do like cloud streaming, you're better off doing like a video, what was it, GeForce.
Or even
they're streaming. They're streaming like platform. Like a lot of people don't realize that is like Nvidia's streaming is far superior than xCloud. It's insane. Like it's a night and day difference, which I truly don't understand how Microsoft hasn't actually improved xCloud, and whereas like Nvidia has like just like kind of like dominated that area. But I do want to say though, I feel like we can't truly speak in absolutes because it's like we have to wait and see.
Right.
When like those games go on Game Pass, if those numbers go up, if they hit their targets. Because it's like we're speaking in like what if scenarios. We don't truly 100%. Like know exactly.
It's just all speculation until like we actually get the numbers.
Because they could like far exceed than what we know, right?
Yeah,
it's like it could absolutely happen, or it might not happen.
Remember the 360? Like Call of Duty, they had the marketing rights. Xbox had marketing rights on Call of Duty. That was the place to play it. That's where the community was. That's where the esports like were. So like we talk a lot about Game Pass as like this like devil, but in actuality, it's like it's really just comes down to the marketing and advertising. Like the fact that like the controller at the esports events will be an Xbox controller does way more for that game than it being on Game Pass. So like no doubt, Call of Duty is going to shift people that would normally play on PlayStation to Xbox. Absolutely will. Look at Harry Potter, great example, right? PlayStation marketed that so well that people legitimately, I had a friend who is not a gamer but is a hardcore Harry Potter person, just thought that was a PlayStation or PC game. So like we talk about Game Pass, it's really just like how successful they are at their marketing is going to really determine how successful this whole Activision deal is going to be. So to me, it's we're talking about like what ifs, who knows.
But see, Mr. Babbitt, I agree with you on the what ifs, and I was actually just saying this before the show to Bash around. Welcome, BRAP, to the show. BRAP, great to have you here. But like the one thing that we say that, Mr. Babbitt, the what ifs. But there's more what ifs in favor of Game Pass a lot on Twitter anyways, in the gaming community. Everyone's like, oh, it's just going to be great. Everyone's just going to go over there. This is the best thing in the world. What I'm saying to you is like, even me who buys Call of Duty on Xbox or PlayStation, I generally, after Christmas, I'll usually buy it on PC as well. So like, I'm still privy to buying it over and over again. So like, I don't see something like Call of Duty where people buy it in multiple places that it really means like, oh, I can't wait to pay $16.99 a month now. The other thing I want to bring up that we talk, no one really talks about this, but Microsoft was very smart this year to make the Game Pass tiers. There's, I believe, 4 tiers. The rumor that I saw, and it's just a rumor, but it'll be very interesting. Like, and this is tribute to Red. Red said we have to wait and see. I completely agree. But to have fun in the speculation pool while we're sitting in here is, will they take a new released Call of Duty and put it into their higher tier? Whereas if you're just the console version or you're just the second tier, you get it 6 months or 12 months later. That's the question. We don't know what Microsoft's going to do. They have 4 tiers of Game Pass. They may end up using that.
Are you a betting man?
Not really.
Okay, well, I want to put a bet right now on this podcast. I want to see if it comes to fruition.
What do you got?
I also believe at this point in time, with this acquisition, the next Call of Duties we see on Game Pass are probably going to be really trimmed down and slimmed down, as in like no single player experience, straight to multiplayer, straight to Warzone, like as slim as they can possibly get it to make some sort of something back with it being on Game Pass. I don't see that's my theory. I don't think that we're going to be seeing these like huge blockbuster Call of Duties come out.
Are they going to fund 3 full-time teams to do a yearly Call of Duty like they have now? I mean, that's an interesting point, right? And also, I think Call of Duty is a franchise that is so entrenched, and it's been around since like 2010, whatever the year was. That it got big, that people already have their friends list and they already have their digital library. And I think when you hear Phil Spencer talk about things like, this was the worst generation to lose, I think he's correct. Like the generation that mainly started collecting digital games, like I think the battle lines are drawn. Like Call of Duty is everywhere, right? It's everywhere. You can get it anywhere you want. So
I think it's going to be severely trimmed down what they offer in the future. I don't think.
Do you think they're going to put in the same effort, like 3 full-time studios making yearly Call of Duties? Yeah, I don't think so either.
Like how many studios they have now? If they're going to be releasing 4, 5, 6, AAA first-party games a year that are going to have 50, 60 million plus budgets, like there's no way all those games are going to make back their budget being just day and date and Game Pass. So they're going to have a reduction in their budgets. There's just I've been saying this for years. I'm like, I don't see a situation how we can expect the big, crazy, bombastic AAA experiences that we have in a service where they don't make their budget back, unless like something's got to give.
And then, I agree.
I just don't. I don't think this is everyone's saying things left and right, and everyone's making like what they think is a possibility in the future, even myself included in that conversation. But I just want to like make something real clear and like simple. Like I look at I've been a gamer for a really long time, and I started gaming on Nintendo, and I was a huge Xbox 360 fan. Inevitably became a huge PlayStation fan, and I just don't think it's a coincidence that all this conversation of Microsoft not being in third place when it comes to game development just has to do with them doing something wrong. I truly believe this is not a coincidence. This is just them heading down this track ever since they introduced Game Pass.
Yeah,
it's been the conversation.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people agree with me here. I think Game Pass was a desperation move. They were in last place. They had to do something to stay relevant. They couldn't compete with the big AAA titles. They couldn't compete with PlayStation. They had to do something in the meantime because they dropped the amount of investment that they put into their brand. They had to buy some time, and Game Pass was that solution. Now, I want to see how they pivot from Game Pass as an emergency situation to Game Pass as like, this is what we're doing. I want to see how they change. I feel like it has to be adapted and changed in some ways to kind of keep up with the current landscape.
I think they just want to be the Walmart of gaming at this point. They want you to walk into their shop and have access to everything, but everything is like a 7 out of 10.
So to me, the interesting thing out of all of it is, again, I don't know. The Netflix comparison, I think, is apt in a sense where, you take a look at like a lot of Netflix shows. It's not that like they're bad because the creative vision is off. A lot of like Netflix shows are super cheap to make. Right. The reason why we went to Netflix was this sort of idea of like there's some really premium shows here. Like this is a Stranger Thing network after all, right?
Yeah.
But then now you get like love in a triangle. You know what I mean? You get like Blind Love. It's like all these like weird dating reality, like MILF Island. Isn't that an actual thing that exists now? It's like you get all these really weird like dating reality shows that are super cheap to make that you could just pump out. I do understand the fear of where, you know, you could take a look at another medium that is actually even cheaper to produce content for going down that path, and what does that mean for gaming? But, you know, again, I don't usually opt for the doomsday scenario. I'm into the idea of, okay, so like Microsoft has this thing, and look, they can't mess up the cycle of a Call of Duty, and they can't just put out a Call of Duty with no single player. Like Call of Duty, it meets some standards, right, of like what needs to be in it. Even I remember the 1 year where they did not have a single player game, like people just or a single player mode, people bitched and complained and all that jazz.
Black Ops,
yeah. So like to me, what's very interesting is like the easy part's over, easy part is done. They bought the company. Now, how do they dissect it? Because a lot of people are like, okay, so that means Vicarious Visions. This means like Beanox. This means Raven.
Right.
Like I could get all these games from my childhood back. It's like that's not actually how it is, because, for example, like Vicarious Vision is now Blizzard, and they're working on a Blizzard project. Right? Same with like Toys for Bob or whatever. Like they're working on Call of Duty. They are a Call of Duty studio now. So if you're going to move this entire team to go back to doing, you know, like Crash Bandicoot or whatever, that means a team has to come in there and take its place.
Yeah.
And those cogs in that wheel need to be removed, need to be replaced, and it needs to be perfect. It needs to stick that landing, because Call of Duty, no matter what, Crash coming out don't mean shit if Call of Duty doesn't come out that year, right?
You use Stranger Things as an example, but remember, Stranger Things was crafted at a time where Netflix was trying to get people to get onto Netflix big time.
Absolutely.
Like the original ideas and IPs that were the best that they were making were to bring those people in. Now it's just like they have that IP. They're able to milk it for as long as they can. That's why we see Stranger Things teenagers running around in high school and they have facial hair and they're 30 years old. You know, they just keep going and going and going because they're like, this is the only real huge IP that we have.
And that's their problem. And like, for example, another like problem that Disney has, right? Like they have all these shows with too big of budgets and, you know, weird situations with like lack of showrunners and things like that. And their shows underperform because they're too expensive to make, right? So what I'm really interested in is, how does Microsoft do a biopsy of Activision, take it apart, and then reconfigure it so that you do have other teams working on other IP that bring people in. Call of Duty, you know, Microsoft's thing is like they bought the farm. So it's like you're going to come to Game Pass because we have Call of Duty, we have World of Warcraft now, we have like, you know, Overwatch, all these games. And all these games are going to have benefits probably somewhere down the line because you're a Game Pass user, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm thinking about as Microsoft takes over. It's not the like what's going to happen in 5 years, because like I could take a look at like what's going to happen to me in 5 years and get freaked out about whatever's going to happen. Like, I don't know, I might have a kid in 5 years. That's scary. So like to me, it's
there
like
you go, Mr. Bad Bit.
Little bad bit is more than welcome.
That's right.
Oh, it scares me. No. So like to me, it's you know, I could think of all these possibilities, and I could think about people's worst intentions, or I could focus on like the real question here is like, how do they disassemble it and reassemble it?
I think it's also
interesting.
I think it's also.
Can I chime in real quick,
I'm
Mooch?
really worried about with this whole thing. Yeah, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. And I wanted to just chime in a couple things here real quick regarding future Call of Duty. I don't think they're going to change Call of Duty the way it is. I mean, like Phil Spencer said, like we're not going to use Call of Duty to sell Xbox consoles. So, like, they're not going to.
But you could take that either way, right, BRAP? You could take that either way then, because if they're not going to use it as if they're not going to use it as a weapon, then do they have to put that kind of money into it?
but they're also not going to sabotage and leave money on the table by sabotaging. I say sabotage.
Well, Activision did that when they took the single player out, and I believe was it Black Ops 4?
It was Black Ops. They did that, and the community was like, no, like it was one of the it didn't do well. Look at the numbers. It didn't perform well. So
no,
like I don't see them doing, and that's why they have Warzone, and Warzone Mobile is going to be big for them. But I don't see them. They may scale back some of the scope a little bit, maybe possibly to accommodate, because they're saying there's going to be parity with Nintendo Switch. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But
that's the thing we're concerned about.
But I don't think they're going to deviate, and I don't think like I see everyone saying, oh, they're going to bring Crash Bandicoot back. They're going to bring all this. They're probably not. Like, why would there's really no money in that. This is their COD's the cash cow. And think what Call of Duty does every year. I mean, it's decently reviewed game on a yearly basis. No other company does that. They crank it out like they're a machine, and it literally will release in the month of October, November, and in a matter of 2 weeks, it's like the top selling game of the year.
That's mind blowing. That's mind blowing.
So think about it. So why Microsoft's not? They got to make that $70 billion back. They got to make their shareholders got to be happy with that an investment. So I don't see them degrading it or changing it because they it's a cash cow for them. I mean, they're treating it like Minecraft. And when you hear Phil say hey, we want the wherever you play Call of Duty, you're welcome. We want you to feel part of this. And he said something, and I'm paraphrasing, but he talked about if you play it on the PlayStation, we want you to know that you're part of this community, whatever.
Yeah.
And he even said we're not going to use skins or map packs or things to kind of differentiate. He talked about parity.
No, parity across all platforms.
Yeah. So that leads me to believe they're not gonna. I don't think they're. I don't think they're going to screw it up. I don't think they're going to change the formula because it makes so much money. It's a cash cow. And I don't think that they're going to. I think someone said something about Game Pass with regards to Game Pass, but I think you'll have the option of, hey, if you want to spend $70 to buy Call of Duty, that will be an option. If you don't want that, we have this thing called Game Pass. You can play it there and get 300 something games.
Don't get me wrong.
I think. See, I'm actually on the opposed spectrum. I think that Call of Duty's on a downward trajectory, if anything.
Based on what?
I feel
based on the fact that people, I think that people are starting to Warzone right now. The latest Warzone they released was considered probably the worst one they did.
Yeah, that one's struggling.
They were struggling to keep the player base going with that. The fact that a lot of people are consistently saying how it is basically the same game every year. That's how they churn them out so fast. But also,
to be fair though, but that happens all the time though. Every time it's the cycle of oh my gosh, this is great, and then it sucks.
That's every gas game though. Every gas game we always had this conversation.
More money than Call of Duty. Did you guys know
what I'm saying right now is that there's no, so where I was trying to get to is that there's really, again, back to coincidence, right? You look at Activision and Blizzard and you look at how they were acquired by Microsoft. They were acquired by Microsoft because right now they are not at their best. Bobby Kotick is a terrible leader of the company, and they agreed to this. They agreed to this merger because they needed the help from Microsoft, whether Call of Duty or not. You would never see this type of conversation with a company like Take-Two for Rockstar. You'd never see it with Kojima Productions. You'd never see it with high-quality powerhouses of companies. You never see that kind of talk. You see it. Microsoft got Activision and Blizzard. The reason why the FTC and everybody got involved was because of the size of the company and how big of a market share it has. But the reality is that Bobby Kotick ruined that company completely. That's why he's out. That's why he's out the door.
I think from a cultural perspective he did, but from a monetary perspective he did not. And I think there's two different conversations here to be had about.
I think the reason why I think shareholders were so apt to sell was if you miss one Call of Duty, you miss 1 year, it's catastrophic, and they almost missed that with this latest one.
It's really
coming out.
If you look at World of Warcraft, you look at Overwatch, you look at their IPs. I mean, even Diablo. I mean, Blizzard has not Diablo had a big beginning start, and they fucked that game up big time. They completely nuked everything about that game. Then now they're trying to fix it, but Blizzard has not really been on their best behavior either when it comes to developing games. The only thing they really do have is Call of Duty, and Call of Duty has had its fair time in the sun. eventually
it's
gonna
running
have to
purely on
sunset.
names. It's running purely on namesake, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not the only one. All of my friends, like, we've been done with the Call of Duty for years. I mean, it's still one of the biggest
It's
games
still-
on the
yeah.
planet. There's no
Yeah.
doubt. There's no
to
doubt.
me,
I
it's
mean-
the it's the Madden of shooters. Like
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I don't see Call of Duty just going anywhere. And I think like we talk about like downward trajectory. I think that's subjective. I mean, I'm looking at the financials. Financials are strong every year. It's a top selling game within like a week. It's. I mean,
Well,
it
the thing is,
sells,
BRAP, so
it
BRAP,
sells gangbusters. And the
BRAP,
other
you're
thing too
not-
is like
Crazy. It's crazy.
and everything like we always talk about this like even with Fortnite we're like it's at a downward like anytime they change something like in a games as a service type game that
Yep.
gamers get familiar
I
with.
mean,
whether it's
just
a map
take
or-
a look at what Call of Duty Mobile's doing right now. 45 million people in the beta alone, or signed up for the beta alone.
Call of Duty Mobile actually
This
prints more money
year-
than
Yeah,
Yes.
this year it outpaced both the console and the PC version. And what do they
That's
do every year?
insane.
Call
Yeah,
of
that's
Duty
crazy.
Mobile, nothing. And then the other thing I think about
that's
this, part of this Activision was also King, which has Candy
Right.
Crush. That fucking game makes $4.2 million a day
half of the revenue.
from idiots buying extra lives. What does it cost for them? to
Hey,
make
that idiot's my aunt, and she sucks.
Hey, your aunt's the
No,
problem
Mr.
there.
Bad
uh,
Bass.
It's blame your aunt from now on. It's all your aunt's
We'll
fault.
be looking at these things like, okay, so let me get this straight. I can spend $500 million to make this game that's going to make us like $1.9 billion a year. Or I can spend like $10 million and make that piece of shit over there. And that's going to generate me $1.5 billion a year.
Well, then why are we
shit,
having?
give me-
Well, then
give
why
me
are we
15
having?
of those? Give me 15
Well,
of
then
those.
why is
it?
anybody having a conversation of how impactful this acquisition is if in reality all this acquisition is just Microsoft picking up games that are not original, are just they churn out money, yeah, but they're not
IP
something to which
harvesting.
people
Just
are.
harvesting the IP.
Yeah, I get that, but it's like this is not an acquisition to which brings to the table
Hey, boys,
something
I'll be
where
right back.
you can look at Microsoft and say like, wow, they have these titles now that are super original and people love to play. I mean, these are generic shooters like BRAP just said, like the Madden of shooters is Call of Duty, and then you have Candy Crush. But I don't see any like Diablo hasn't been good in a while. World of Warcraft, same thing. I mean, Overwatch, it's dead. I don't know. I just don't.
Do you think they're going to take action on some of these? That big
It just
list
fits
of
the narrative. It
IPs?
fits the narrative of that that Walmart type of scenario where it's like, oh, you want Call of Duty? Yeah, we got Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Well, I mean,
you
that's-
want Candy
that's-
Crush? We got Candy Crush.
But that's
you know.
but that's what they want. And I think the big thing for them is they are like, if you listen to what Satya said about we're like one of the largest publishers and game producers. And think about that statement. Like there was no in that statement there was anything about hardware, consoles, or anything like that. But
Exactly.
and he did mention console, cloud, and mobile. But
Mhm.
but look, they are. And I look at like kind of like reading the tea leaves, what Phil's been saying, and you look at the performance of the Xbox Series console, and it's had 4 straight quarters of negative growth. And
Yeah.
even this last quarter, fiscal year or Q1 of fiscal year 2024 for Microsoft, with the release of Starfield, like the Xbox hardware was down -7 year over year.
Pacing
that's-
behind the Xbox One.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, like
I first of all can't believe that he even made a statement that okay, now we're going to be a production company in gaming. Like we're going to do
but
our due
But
diligence.
that makes
Weird.
sense, though. That makes sense about Microsoft as a software as a services company. I mean, so people got upset when I said this. I said I see them as being kind of more of a behaving more like a third party developer. Yes, they have Game Pass and they want Game Pass on TVs, mobile devices. If they could have it on PlayStation, they would put it there.
Yes.
Oh,
Like,
100%.
yeah. I mean, like they want it everywhere. They want that. Phil talked about the dongle. That was actually something that was in R&D. They couldn't get to a price that made sense. But if they could get that dongle at $100, you better believe they'll sell it. But that's what they want. They want Game Pass everywhere. They're still going to continue to sell software, and people don't realize like they still sell Office. Even though you can subscribe, they still sell versions of Office still. But that's what they want. Like they want everything.
So
And
this topic comes up all the time, Brap. I'll just pose it to you first, and then go right down the panel. I mean, we've kind of said it, but everybody kind of beats around the bush, right? They're going to end up. They want to put Game Pass everywhere. We all know that. We all agreed. They're definitely big on mobile. They definitely are big on. They want to be big in the PC market. It's and their hardware continues to drop quarter after quarter. So, I mean, are we leaning towards them going to a third-party publisher? in a sense. And at that point, once they are and they're out of the hardware market, that's not, by the way, everyone in the audience are listening later. I don't mean they're doing that tomorrow. They're going to have another console. I mean, I'm saying down the road, it could be 10 years from now, it could be 15 years from now. But my point is once they make that move, then you'll see Game Pass on PlayStation and Nintendo. Because at that point, it wouldn't matter to those folks because it's no different than...
I don't know.
I mean, what you think about...
Allow it.
Maybe not, Nova, but but it would be more welcome if Xbox wasn't a competing platform against Sony.
Yeah, but
I mean, they're doing that on their own. They're
Game Pass would have to go away, and then they would just become a third-party publisher and publish to all available platforms. That's the only way that really works, because Nintendo and PlayStation are never going to allow Game Pass on their consoles. But
they can still see a lot of growth through Game Pass, like through mobile, and and presenting Game Pass on mobile to different like parts of the globe, like India as an example, where people aren't going to buy consoles or PC devices in India. They do most of their computing on mobile. So that's an avenue where Microsoft can introduce gaming and get some inroads through Game Pass by having it on devices, mobile devices, where people wouldn't have the means necessarily to do PC or console. But the other thing too, I mean, they could take the World of Warcraft's monthly subscription. They'll probably roll that into Game Pass. So I think it's a kind of a two-pronged approach for them. It's selling software on everywhere, making it available everywhere, and then also making Game Pass available everywhere if you want to have that monthly subscription. Yeah. So let me kind of just take a quick not a right turn here, but we'll take a quick little split here in the fork in the road. Let's talk about the Microsoft reorg of what they did here. They shook things up in position descriptions. Matt Booty takes a lateral move to a certain extent and makes room for Sarah Bond. Basher, I'm just going to you here first and foremost. You have a little bit more of the insight and things like that. So what do you think overall was the grand scheme here? What's the long-term goal for these moves of positions? Where, us sitting on the outside looking in, we're like, okay, so this person moved here, this person moved there. Okay, great. But what was the strategy behind it? Do you have a theory?
My theory is that I think that there's a shift in leadership because of the fact of the narrative to which has been occurring with a lot of these games that are supposed to be like heavy hitters, like Redfall and even with Starfield as an example. But at the end of the day, I think honestly, Sarah Bond is an extremely talented individual. She's a lot of people think that she's essentially just the I'm going to say the lackey of Phil Spencer, but that's actually not the case at all. There's definitely some things in motion that I've heard that she has in mind for what she has plans for Xbox, and I think that the one concern I have is actually Matt Booty over anything else, because he's more of like from a business perspective. He's not really a crazy gamer like Phil Spencer and even Sarah Bond are. So that's my main concern with it. But I think overall it just has to do with the fact of just leadership and giving a hand to Phil Spencer to keep all his ducks in a row when it comes to Xbox, because I think they're looking at that as well as like, how has Xbox been doing under his command, with him having all these different cards in his hand. And I think the lateral movement is to do just that, just to give him that support that he needs to turn Xbox into a somewhat powerhouse again of gaming development and a gaming studio.
Yeah, I mean, BRAP, what do you think about this? What do you think about the moves here? I mean, is it a power move, or is it really just something that is it setting up something for the future in your take? I mean, it's big titles, a lot of people being moved into the bigger titles from their previous positions. Is it also something that maybe is showing that the profit margins aren't being kept? Maybe Satya's job. Maybe he'll be replaced. Is it possible he may be looking to get replaced? Not for something Xbox would get any kind of a slap on the wrist, but maybe Satya might. And then this is a power move through the structure. They moved a lot of people. This isn't just Xbox, by the way. Like Yosef Mehdi and a bunch of other people that are not Xbox anymore that are working in different divisions of Microsoft have also shifted positions in the past few weeks. So this is not just an Xbox thing. It's just an interesting situation, Brad. Did we lose Brad? Brad probably went and got himself a sandwich, which I recommend everybody do. What do you what do you think, Gambit? You think this is a power move?
I think it's just an adjustment to the landscape of what you see. I think you even see the same thing in PlayStation. Like you're starting to hear rumblings of studios not being happy with the full shift to, games as a service. I think it's just the changing landscape, and they're just making adjustments and trying to fit. They're trying to fit into the current conversation a little bit better. I think. Sarah Bond, I don't know much about her, but she seems like she knows what she's talking about. She makes probably twice as much money as me, if not more. So it's she probably knows what she's talking about. So I want to give her a chance and see what she's about. I do like people like Phil Spencer and people who actually game and kind of get it.
Yes.
And so I'm going to give her a chance and see what she has to show everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Nova, I really want to get your take on this. And Nova, I'm not sure if the audience can hear. I was boosting your volume here on Discord. I don't know if can you put your mic up a bit? I'm going to put you back down to 100%. I had you at 140.
Oh shit!
I just want to make sure your volume. I put you back to 100. Can you up the volume on your side? Because even me doing 140 on the side, it still doesn't. It's not pushing your voice out enough.
Yeah, in Discord.
You can do it through. Are you on PC?
No, I'm a Mac.
That's okay. You can still do it.
It should still do it. I don't know the setting for it though, but I would assume like it has like the mic volume increase or something like that.
Yeah, if you could find that, Nova, not a big deal. I'll put you back up to 140, but go ahead and we lost Nova. That is not the intent. But Red, what do you think? Well, Nova will be back. Red, what do you think when you see this shakeup? Does this mean anything to you? You saw it hit the news this week.
Yeah, I do think like it seems like Sarah Bond definitely is, promoted, and I wouldn't be shocked if she then becomes head of Xbox later on, right?
Right.
Like the main, instead of Phil. So I wouldn't be shocked that ends up happening.
So you think Sarah will be taking Phil's spot eventually?
Yeah, it feels like
I think a lot of people.
It seems like a lot of people in terms of social media wants that to happen, and it seems like it's being lined up. I mean, things can change, absolutely, but it does seem that way. The whole Matt Booty in terms of still being head of first party along with Bethesda, I feel is a bit too much. I feel like that's like I feel like he was already spread thin as it is.
Yeah, and
now with Bethesda, I don't know. I think they should have also got just a separate person in charge of Bethesda, but.
Yeah, I know. This is too early to tell. I just thought it was interesting. It's not happening just at Xbox. It's happening all over. It is what it is. Shout out to what
it has to do with the economy too. A lot of people losing their jobs.
I can't move the volume up any higher on my end here.
That's okay. No, Nova, you're fine. You're fine, Nova. I'm going to boost you up on this end again. I just didn't know if I had shout out to the great Eric Jackson. Eric was on, and I said the same thing to him. And then he goes, "Oh, Mooch, you won't believe what I did." I go, "What's that?" He goes, "I just moved my microphone a lot closer to me," and he got a lot louder. So I didn't know if it was going to be a simple fix or what it is. I've had a lot of mic issues over the past few weeks as well. So, Nova, what do you think? I mean, I do want to. I'm going to change subjects, but I do want to hear what you think. What do you think of this big switch up? It happened, like I said, Yosef Mehdi was one of the people that just comes to mind because I remember from the Xbox One launch when he was there, but now he's a different part of Microsoft. So this switch up hasn't just happened at just Xbox. It's happened across Microsoft as a whole. Does this mean anything? I mean, Red was making a good point that Sarah Bond may be the next Phil Spencer. She may be taking over.
I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about all these individual people and what they did before. Like people keep talking about, oh, Sarah Bond's going to do an amazing job. I can't tell you what Sarah Bond did before in terms of like her accomplishments. I don't know what she's done. I know she worked at Xbox, but I don't know what she's done, what her capabilities are or anything. As far as to the shakeup, if we're talking specifically about Xbox, it kind of feels, at least for me anyway, it's like it doesn't matter where you put the people if the mentality and the strategy is the same as it was before, or the same, going forward, then it doesn't matter who's where because it's going to be the same strategy. It's like, we changed the quarterback, but call the same plays. And it's like, well, what's changing?
Yeah, nothing. Exactly. That's a good point. So I'd be.
I mean, are you ready for a change? I'm kind of ready for a different.
I am.
I'm never going to argue against getting new blood in there, but like I said, if the overall mentality of everything doesn't change, having new blood in there is great, and she's obviously a young and attractive woman, and everyone's excited about that. But if everything they do is the same as everything that was going to happen before, then it's the same shit. We just have new faces in different places.
Well, that's the thing when it comes to Microsoft being such a big company the way they are. For them to do, like, even the pivot that they did, right, which we said earlier on the show, the pivot to Game Pass, that was a massive, that was like turning the Titanic, right? I mean, that's a big move. It's a hard thing to pivot to. They launched Game Pass in 2017. It is about, we're about to see the ball drop in a couple of months.
Having issues selling hardware though at the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, could you imagine where they would be if they didn't launch Game Pass?
But that's the thing, Gamut. You said, Nova, you said they were having a hard time. I'm having a conversation right now with somebody in the chat that doesn't seem to understand. I love when people in the chat are like, you guys only say that. You listen to other shows where they just praise Xbox. I'm just bringing up the other counterpoint. And I'm just saying that right now, this was if you guys go back to 2020 and listen to all the shows that were out there, they're like, Xbox Series S coming in at $299. Series X, the most powerful console, at $499. They can't lose. They're losing by an estimate. It's estimated because Xbox hasn't revealed 3-1.
Mooch, I just want to say something to that point. I remember 2020, and I remember these Xbox Centrics podcasts. They were like $299 with Game Pass. It's a no-brainer, and they were literally playing out these scenarios in their mind of little Johnny going to Best Buy with his mom, looking at the more expensive PS5, looking at the cheaper alternative, plus Game Pass, and they're like, this is going to be a different gen. And now hardware, this is hardware now, is performing worse than the Xbox One, which is their worst console generation ever.
Right. Right. And what is it? I mean, that just has, and it's funny because everyone just goes, well, Game Pass.
Yeah,
that's not necessarily.
I hate this idea that, oh, they don't care about selling consoles. Console sales don't matter. And it's like, well, look, PlayStation has more subs to PS Plus, and PlayStation doesn't market PS Plus at all. It pretty much just markets itself and sells itself. You never see ads for PS Plus. You see ads for Game Pass fucking everywhere. PlayStation has more PlayStation Plus subscribers than Xbox has Game Pass subscribers. Why? Because they sell more fucking consoles. So imagine if Xbox had the install base of PlayStation with how much they market Game Pass. Their subs would probably be around where they need them to be.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I really do.
My argument would be they don't need to market PlayStation Plus because the multiplayer games or the deals that they've struck with, you know, games like Call of Duty, with games like Fortnite, kind of do that advertising for them, because you're not going to be able to play Call of Duty without Game Pass. And though you can play Fortnite without, you know, a PlayStation Plus subscription, they entice you with all the type of free skins and doodads that you get if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber. So that's how they hook you in. They were very smart with those deals, with their partnerships, that they kind of didn't have to go, hey, look, we're here too, the way Xbox does, because the reality of the situation.
Taking the partnerships into account, though, they don't push that service anywhere near as much.
No.
Or market anywhere near as much as X, because that is essentially Xbox's new product, is the service.
Yeah, and where Microsoft's issue is that they have a console that, or, you know, their market share in this field is so limited and small that they have to go, hey guys, we exist, we're here, please come and play, and look at how many cool things we get. You know, it's one of the reasons why Xbox isn't as hesitant with like handing out codes to the creators, because they know they're in third place. So any type of publicity is good publicity. That's typically the PR mantra. So like for them, they do realize where they are and why the service needs to get pushed out the way it does.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of things. First of all, the end goal here.
I run a PlayStation podcast.
Yes,
I know. I sound very, I love Xbox. I run a PlayStation show. I know it's very shocking.
Everybody misunderstands too. I have two Xbox Series X's, actually three. I have three X's in the house. I have two PS5s. Like, you guys don't understand. Like, I play on Xbox, I play on PlayStation, and I'm slowly growing to play more and more on PC. And that's not because I want to or because BRAP and Red are in my ear all the time being like, you should play here. It's because, honestly, now I play Starfield on my PC. I'm going to start playing Xbox games on my PC. I know Xbox doesn't care. Microsoft doesn't care. Good. Guess I don't care. So next generation, I'm putting my money into a high fidelity type of PC. I want to have a great PC and I can play my Xbox games there. It's not about Xbox, PlayStation. I just like having the debate on a good discussion on the weekly news. And that's why I bring in different folks every week. It's a lot of fun to have different personalities. I actually I didn't even speak as much on these two topics as I usually do because I was so interested in what the panel has to say. It's very interesting, and it's a dynamic. You guys that are just allegiance to one thing, and that's it, and that's the bottom line, that's fine. You can be that. Everybody has a preference. I've always said that, and I encourage you. You should. If someone says to you, do you like McDonald's or Burger King? You're going to say Burger King. Some of you are going to say McDonald's. It's just the way it is. Nike, Reebok. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's great debate, and that's what I like to have on the show. It's not just about, oh, this is what you are. You're a fan of this. Some things I do question on the Xbox front. Now, we're about to get into what we're questioning, some of the things on the PlayStation front.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So,
I got a lot of goddamn questions about this.
Hey, Mooch, can I say something real quick?
Go ahead, Basher.
Yeah, I want to also reiterate the fact that, like, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Like, there's no such thing as an atmosphere in a gaming space or in a business space where you have one lead company that is just where everyone goes and stays that way. That will end well for people's pockets. I think the reason why, because I see a lot of people in the chat also saying like, well, all we do is bash Xbox and we're bashing Xbox. No, it's actually the opposite. What we want is a competitor.
Yeah,
we want a gaming company that is going to be able to compete with Sony, compete with Nintendo, because with competition comes greatness, comes that competition of releasing games that can compare to other games, and that everybody wins in the end. The idea of being a fanboy is quite possibly one of the dumbest ideas you can have if you like to truly game and you are a real gamer who likes good games, because you're not going to get anywhere. Your pockets are going to hurt more than anything else. If Sony becomes the dominant force and Xbox just bows out and they lose this invisible console war, it'll be the worst thing that can happen to us as gamers, because then that means that Sony, who is a business at the end of the day, will be like, hey, well, know what? They're not going anywhere else and they need us and we're the only ones putting out games. So let's start to save some money.
Why did PlayStation raise the price of PlayStation Plus?
Because they
can. It sucks. That's why. There's no reason for it, and they shouldn't have.
In the opposite part of the conversation, if Xbox Game Pass was putting out AAA content and people were able to get Game Pass and have these experiences that Sony puts out, Sony wouldn't be doing that. They'd be looking at ways to which they can compete with that model, and they'll be looking at ways to which they can say, okay, they are a true competitor, so we need to get better in order for people to come to our platform. And we saw that in the days of PS3 and Xbox 360, where by the end of the life cycle and generation, Sony was just churning out stuff, bangers, because they needed to play catch up with the market, which was heavily dominated by Xbox 360 and Xbox 360 IPs.
All the time,
we got the best.
They just acquired ABK. They are competing. It's like, well, no, that definitely puts them in a better position to compete, but unless they manage those IPs properly and actually develop banger games that move the needle in terms of their subscription counts, then it's great that they have all that shit, but it's not going to make a difference. Just having it is not competition in and of itself. They have to be able to do shit with it that's going to move the needle. Right now, the needle isn't moving.
Yeah, I just don't think that it's a healthy practice to say like, hey, this is my console, this is who I root for, this is what I cheer for. You should be rooting for good games, no matter where you get that.
Right.
No matter where you get that.
They need each other. I mean, the great PlayStation that we know today was born from the ass kicking they took from the Xbox 360, right?
Yeah.
So that goes back and forth. So the next great Xbox era that you're going to see should come from the butt whooping that PlayStation has put on them. So and that just keeps escalating into better games. And so let's not forget the fact that like we got Xbox 360 because of PlayStation 2. Yeah, exactly. Right, and it just feeds on it. It just feeds on itself.
And that's so Basher, agreeing with you, agreeing with Gamut. That's why when people are like, "Oh my God, they got Activision," but that doesn't excite me. Like, I'm already playing Call of Duty. I'm already playing Diablo. Like, it doesn't change anything.
Xbox guys.
Like, I'm not excited about that. Like everybody else, I don't know why. Maybe if it's a me problem, that's fine. I'll deal with that. That's fine. But like, I already play that. Diablo just came out. The last Diablo came out 10 or 12 years ago. So it'll be an Xbox exclusive in 10 years for Diablo 5? Great. Let's hold our breath. Overwatch, don't care. Like, I'm just trying to say, so like, and everyone's like, well, Microsoft's going to pull all the IP out of the chest. They've owned Rare forever. They haven't pulled anything out of that chest. Like, so it's not like I'm excited or I'm enthusiastic that they're going to do that. They haven't proven to me that they would. So when people are like, aren't you excited they got Activision? I'm like, but why? Like, it's the same thing right now if I said to you guys that are Xbox fans listening right now, if we were like, oh my God, Sony got Bungie. You'd be like, dude, I don't care. I'm playing Destiny on my Xbox. And you'd be right. Yeah. Who cares? Like, it's not
people to say, like, PlayStation should acquire Square Enix for what?
Yeah, for what?
All the Square games already come to PlayStation. Like, why?
They already get the milk for free.
Yeah, I don't want that. Like, I bet you they end up getting Square Enix. You're not going to hear me be like excited about it. Like, that's not exciting. They're already getting Square Enix games for 12 months or longer.
Yeah. And let's be real. We'll probably talk about, maybe we segue right into it. When I talk about like this Activision Blizzard deal and all this jazz, it's not like I'm psyched or thrilled about it, because you're right. Like, we were always gonna get a Call of Duty,
right?
You know what I mean? Crash, we got them. Spyro, we got. Like, these games aren't gone or returning because Microsoft bought them. They've been making them. Nothing has changed. When I think about consolidation in the industry, does it get me hyped? Does it get me excited in one bit? When I see the articles of like, oh, PlayStation feels the pressure, they're going to buy something. Of course they're going to buy something.
Right.
Because they need to prove that they have a foothold in this industry as well, right? That doesn't excite me. That doesn't excite me one bit. I don't care who they buy. Like, it could be I was gonna say Bethesda, Ubisoft. I'm just throwing names. Whatever.
I actually think opposite. I don't think they're going to buy anybody.
I hope they don't.
I do think they're going to buy something.
Why would they have to?
I just want them to. I just want them to.
They will, because of the consolidation that's happening in the industry. Right
because
now.
if more partners of theirs get bought up, then they're gonna.
They need to secure partnerships, and to me, it's like, you know what? Don't go out there. And again, I'm just throwing names. These two would never happen, but like, don't go out there and try to buy an EA or 2K or Ubisoft or Square Enix or Capcom, whatever the case may be. It's like, how about just continue what you've been doing? XDev is great. It's great at forging partnerships, at forging bonds, and forging communication between you and your partner. And go out there and put that money into studios. Like, look, we saw Casey Hudson has a studio. Dude, if I was Sony right now, I'd be walking up to Casey with a check going, how much? How much for this sci-fi RPG that you are making for us? Like, that's the stuff that I want to see. I want to see advancements in studios. I want to see that type of acquisition.
I think that to say that Sony,
but none of this shit excites me. It all sucks.
I think to say that Sony's going to go out and
buy reinvestment into like studios that I care about. Like, when I hear like, oh, Sony just reinvested a whole bunch of money into Naughty Dog or into Insomniac, I'm like, fuck yeah, that excites me more than Sony acquiring somebody.
Yes,
we're speaking about consolidation and why Sony should buy people because of consolidation. Like, if the conversation, if the hypothesis at the end of the day is that Microsoft is going to keep doing this.
Yep.
It's not just Microsoft. It's also other companies like Tencent and all that. They're going to continue also. After this deal, Amazon, all these other companies are going to also consolidate and buy other companies. That's usually how it goes. We're getting even rumors that Disney is looking to also acquire EA. So you're seeing more and more of these companies as well as like thinking about getting into the gaming industry, or also like BRAP mentioned, Amazon, or like I said, Tencent is also going to look to acquire more,
and that answers
either
the question,
developers or publishers.
That answers the question for you there, Bash. And I understand where you're coming from, where you say no, but the thing is two things: IP and talent, right? IP and talent doesn't grow on trees. So the thing about it is, if these companies, these big companies, are going to go out there and start scooping up and they're getting big ideas, I don't think Sony has to respond. I do think they're going to. Now, who they're going to respond with, I'm not even going to speculate, because I don't know. We don't really know how they're going to work things. Again, I will say Square Enix is kind of it's boring because they already have that in place. I mean, Capcom, Konami, with those two there, I would almost think that they would maybe not buy them, but maybe they would go to Konami has a ton of amazing IP. They might buy IP and give it to their studios to make games. That I could see happening. And that makes a lot of sense if you think about it. That's a lot cheaper, and then they can do more of that organic growth through their already invested teams.
Mooch,
That's
I don't
what
want.
That's what they're good at, is
Was
like really
making
talented.
fucking pachinko machines and not doing shit with the IP.
Right. Well, so
Oh yeah, Konami is doing more.
I just
well,
want to
be
see
fair, like,
PlayStation do what they've always done, and just and really, develop that talent. I think they have a really good talent in developing great blockbuster teams. Working with them, getting to know them. Kind of guiding them in this direction, guiding them in that direction. I just hope PlayStation sticks to its strengths, honestly. But we'll just see how it goes. I'm sure
I think that's why we saw Jim Ryan get kind of pushed out the door, because I think that a lot of the narrative, well, like I said last time, a lot of the narrative for Sony has been like Sony is not allowed to be at an 8 out of 10. They're supposed to be a 10 out of 10.
right.
And that's
Yeah.
even though we're speaking in like whatever, it's like,
Are we saying
like I
Jim
said,
Ryan got pushed out of the door?
I believe that his narrative that he was trying to put in play for Sony with this, with like making money and going towards this microtransactions and mobile and all this kind of crap that he
They were
wants
doing
to
that. They were doing
well,
that
the thing
before
is, like,
him,
we
though.
also heard Jim Ryan, like, was it a year ago, talk about like him hating to travel, right? And then even in his retirement, like him saying that it's because of him traveling, he doesn't want to do that anymore because he has to go fly to like the U.S. and then
North America,
Japan and all this other stuff in Europe. So it's like he's like pretty old up there, and he like. I won't lie.
He's kind of
When
that
I'm that
age
age
anyway.
too, I probably would want to retire around that.
Isn't he like
age.
57 years old? Jim Ryan?
He's 60.
No, 60,
No, he's like
I think.
62 or something.
He's hard.
He
He's kind of that age.
He's been in that
anyway.
company for a long time. Very.
He's
long.
actually 24. He's
So
24 years
judging by
old.
what you guys are saying right now, you're saying that
The
even if
job
Jim
is just
Ryan,
aged him.
even if
It's
Jim
also
Ryan is not the
a
head
hella
of,
stressful job. Like, people don't understand that guys, even the Phil Spencers of the world,
Yeah.
to have the job that these people have, where millions of people.
Phil looks
work
tired.
underneath
He
them, like
does.
these are stressful fucking jobs, and this
Let's put on some
fucking
LBs.
60, I just be like, dude, I'm over this. I've made my money. I'm good.
Yeah,
I
you don't
hate
make that
flying,
kind of
I hate
paycheck for
traveling.
nothing, man. There's a
Yeah.
price to pay.
And then
I'm
also
about-
like
And
like,
he- he's leaving with the
on a good
company,
note.
honestly, in a good place. People can be like, oh, the PlayStation didn't have any games except for Spider-Man in 2023. Yeah, and they outsold the competition 3-1 in 2023. Like, he's still leaving overall the company in a good place. Where it will be in the future, who's to say? But right now, with him walking out the door, it's not like he left PlayStation in shambles.
Yeah,
yeah,
like,
but I'm confused here right now. So we're gonna sit here and say that as of recently, a lot, even though again, and this is where I brought that up the last time, where I thought that like God of War Ragnarok would be like an 8 to a 9 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10, right? Because of like where I thought that Sony was kind of where they were putting their resources and the narrative to which is happening at this point in time. I think that Sony is well aware of the fact that the gamers that buy their consoles and why they buy them and what they're looking for. And I think that they're well aware of the conversation happening in the room, that a lot of people are upset with their silence, with the fact that they haven't told us anything, with their number one studio, Naughty Dog, not releasing one title this whole generation so far, and nobody knows what the faction situation, and nobody knows what's happening at all, and everything's in the dark. And then you have Jim Ryan coming out and saying, hey, all this money's going to be dumped into mobile and microtransactions and all this stuff.
Right.
And it's like, I really think that Sony, at the end of the day, heard all of this and is like, hey, you know what? Maybe
I can tell you for a fact they did not give a shit.
exactly, because I was gonna say
Because
the,
you're like-
new
like-
head of Babbitt, like the new
Yeah,
head
go
of
for it,
PlayStation is gonna continue doing what is already
that's what I wanted to
put
get
in
into.
place in terms of
yeah.
the plan. A
Because
lot of the
it
games will
makes
keep
money.
going on PC. That's going to be happening. A
Yep.
lot of the games will be live service games. That will continue happening. It's not because of it's because of not being communicative and whatnot. It's like that's not the investors don't care about that. The investors care about the cold hard facts. If they're making a lot of money in terms of profit margins and all that, and Sony keeps going up and up and up until it hurts their bottom line, they're not going to change their plans going forward for the future. That is
No,
going to continuously happen.
I always try to stress this on the trophy room. It's just like, we need to understand that the community that loves to talk about games, be in the conversation, listen to these shows, we are such a minority in this space.
Yeah.
We are less than 5%. So yeah, and trust me, we are the number one advocates of like, PlayStation needs to talk to us more. Jesus, their communication's awful. It sucks. It absolutely is dog shit. But at the same exact time, they don't talk to us. Naughty Dog is in a state of one of Naughty Dog's projects is in a state of disarray, and they are still beating the competition 3-1. Right? Because like, what's the thing that's really taking them home is like, we have Spider-Man, we have God of War, we have Horizon, and in between those games, we will make deals with our partners on the games that you really care about. So your Hogwarts Legacies, your Star Wars, like those games that are going to sell gangbusters. That's who they're partnered with.
Just
So
to be
it's
clear,
like-
you guys think that right now that even though Jim Ryan is gone, that this conversation and what their goal is at the end of the day will not change.
Yeah, it will not change unless their profit margins hurt badly.
Exactly.
Like it's going to continue happening. Their profit
there's
margins-
definitely going to be
roadmap and shit, but in terms of like the casuals and everyone else, if like the other people just looking at it, they just see games because they don't recognize first party, third party. They just see games and the PlayStation, the regular fucking people. They can't differentiate between the two.
Yeah, it's not like things aren't going to change. Anybody in that type of power is going to change. I think his effects on the company will probably remain there for the most part, right? But whoever's in charge, like when people talk about like the games as service approach and like the investment there, it's not like they're investing in games as service and they're forgetting their single player heritage. They're putting the same amount of investment they have been since 2020 in their single player games. They're just putting more of it in this idea of games as service, and whoever's bringing up that mantle, it depends on what they think is going to be important in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
According
Right,
to David Jaffe, Jim Ryan got fired.
I remember when we had those reports
Yeah,
saying
I
that they were
don't-
going
I
to put
don't-
like
I don't buy that.
60% of their funding into live service, and people were like, "Oh, they're putting less money into the regular games." I'm like, not necessarily. We don't know how much they're putting into everything. They could be putting 60% in live service, but if that 40% is larger than it used to be, then they're still putting more money into the other games that we love. Like, we don't know this information.
Let me say this, Basher. You made a point when you said, PlayStation likes to run on a 10 out of 10 scale, even if you were saying they may be at an 8 out of 10 right now. Just to put things in perspective, Cory Balrog is working on a new IP with not just the A-Team, but with some amazing people from Sony Santa Monica. No matter what you thought of God of War Ragnarok, that's not even Corey's team. That's not even Corey. And it was amazing. So this is the thing. There's so many things that are going on right now. Sucker Punch is working on things. I know listen, I'm saying this, and I've said it on Twitter. I'll say it here. Like Naughty Dog, everyone's bashing on Naughty Dog. Man,
by the way, Jaffe never said Jim Ryan was fired. He actually said that the lady, Connie Booth, was fired.
Oh,
yeah.
they're being fired.
Yeah, Connie, but-
whoever's saying,
But I think
but somebody in live chat said Jim Ryan, like,
Yeah.
no, and that was
Well,
by the
that's
way,
what everyone was saying when
I
they
think-
said that
yeah,
Jim
and that-
Ryan was stepping down. Like, oh, he got shit canned.
yeah,
It's
and
like,
that's
It's like,
something, and that's
it's
something
like,
that
no, I
hasn't
feel
been
like you're just
corroborated
kind of, like, listen, again, it's all conjecture. We're not business folks. I don't know my ass from my elbow from Business 101. But like, from what I can tell is Jim Ryan's leaving probably on a high note. And he probably is, just like any CEO, leaving questions that need to be answered, and whoever's going to put themselves in those shoes need to answer said questions of where they're going to take it.
I'm hearing a bit differently on Sony's side of things. That's all I'm going to say.
Well,
I
I
can't
mean,
get into details, but
Yeah,
the
no,
people that I know that work for Sony, that work for PlayStation right now, and what I've been hearing, again, I'm not going to get specifically into details, but it doesn't look like we're speaking on conjecture, and I'm speaking on people that I speak to that I know that are telling me that it's kind of a shitstorm there right now as well.
I mean,
So-
listen, I don't like, depending on who you talk to, like, I wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised.
I think people look
Because like, I'm like, real talk, I'm not running on conjecture either.
look,
Like, they're just like,
I work for big organizations. There's always people who aren't happy. There's always changes,
Yeah.
and those changes aren't always resonate well with people. So I think we need to be careful when we start saying, "Oh, I'm hearing it's a shit show."
exactly.
Okay, well, that really hasn't been corroborated per se,
Right.
like by media.
It's
or by,
it's kind of like what Tom
it's like-
Henderson was saying with Jaffe
Yeah.
on Twitter, which I agree with. It's like, it's a lot of hearsay, and I could hear a lot of crazy shit. And then if it comes out true, that's great. Then we can actually talk about like the
Exactly,
reality
yeah.
of those things. It's kind of like when Jaffe reported on Connie Booth leaving, and people are on this like like on this tizzy, and Henderson would be like, listen, Jeffy, I'm hearing something similar, but maybe we could just cool it a little bit, because 1 or 2 or 3 sources doesn't mean this is the whole picture,
Yeah, I think the one thing too, when you look at it, you just look at his age when it comes just all of us. This goes for us. It goes for our parents, grandparents. When you hit that early to mid 60s and you've been with a company for over 30 years, I mean, sure, could you get fired at 63? Sure. But you also at that point, you're kind of like, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
So,
Like my thing is, Mooch, like he like in terms of profit margins and all that stuff, take away the negative things when it comes like Naughty Dog and like not really communicating. It's like he pulled like just like Andrew House and Jack Tretton during the PlayStation 4 generation, they both left on a good note on PlayStation 4, and the same thing for him. Not in terms of like community, like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, but like in terms of profits, he's like, listen, PlayStation is as strong as ever in terms of making a bunch of money, and I'm headed out. And it's like that's very much in line with what other people done.
So, but again, like, and I'm just speaking on behalf of like the fact of the layoffs occurring at PlayStation right now, the fact of Connie Booth leaving, the fact of that kind of being indicative of a games as service model and the ideology that they had in place over there. I mean, what I'm saying is not made up. This is reported. So I don't know why people are like, well, we can't just go off of,
because you said it was a shit show.
People are saying.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to specifically get into who said that to me, but there are layoffs happening right now. There are layoffs happening right now that are indicative to what was happening with games of service, and there are people losing their jobs. Rounds of layoffs happening.
That's not uncommon when we see shifts in philosophy or strategies in corporations. Yeah. You don't have the people who buy into those shifts, and I've seen it. Like I've sat in those meetings where it's, you have a group of people that are used to doing it the old way. They don't want to pivot. You have a different group of people where they've gotten the nod from the CEO or the CEO or the shareholders. This is the direction we want to head, and they're going to pull people in who want to execute that vision. It doesn't surprise me somebody at 34 years who's done business a certain way and may not want to pivot or grow or toe the the line per se, that they're gone. I mean, this kind of turnover isn't unusual. I mean, I've been through 3 M&As. M&As are always ugly, number one, but I've been through culture shifts, through different and like we just went through my organization, and it's like, oh man, this sucks. Like I see it with like the partners and the managers. Especially the people who've been there for a long time. They're so used to.
We take a look at like the previous generation, one that we really, really love and look highly on. And you take a look at like, Zipper Interactive isn't there. Liverpool isn't there. Like there are studios that closed down even when PlayStation was at its best. Right. And so like, yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not here defending, like, there's obviously things, again, portions of that philosophy aren't going the way that they wanted it to go. Absolutely, that's the case. And yeah, you're seeing shifts as a company has never done this before. Talking about games as service, their struggles, we're seeing it on the background right now. And that's probably why you see them go to people like Bungie going, listen, dude, we've never done this before. We're having a bit of a problem here. And them coming in and going, okay, so this is a problem. This is a problem. This is probably the best course of action. Dreams.
According to the layoffs occurring, the reason they're occurring is because the people that are being laid off want Sony to continue making single player experiences and not shift towards that games of service model. And that's what's happening here.
Let's also be clear. It's something in addition to. They're not getting rid of the single player stuff.
Right.
Yes. I think you have to be really careful.
The people that are getting axed from Sony are the ones that believe that they shouldn't be focusing on games of service.
Well, good.
They should be focusing on what put them on the map now.
That's what I'm talking about. That is not unusual. I mean, this happened with Xbox, the original Xbox. Ed Freeze has talked about this and quite a bit. Where with the original Xbox, what Ed Freeze and God, who's the guy? What's his name? Seamus Blackley. What they loved about the original Xbox at that time was that Microsoft really didn't. They weren't involved. Like the suits were not involved. And when they saw the success of Halo the original Xbox. And Ed Freeze talked about like Halo 2, how the suits wanted them to release Halo 2. And Ed's like, look, this game's not ready.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you need to put this game out. Like we need this out right now. We need another banger. We need something to. We need that adrenaline shot to drive revenue and drive more sales of the hardware.
Wasn't there also a point in time where they were mandating that their games have a multiplayer component because they felt that that's what everybody wanted? So they were trying to figure a way to make multiplayer, add-ons for games that weren't really intended for that.
Like Dead Space 2, I remember that. That was the worst multiplayer I've ever played in my life. Like the Media Molecule layoffs, as terrible as they are, and you're seeing a co-founder leave that studio, it's because they really believed in Dreams. That's the game that they wanted to make.
They want,
those people leaving are because Dreams did not go the way they
do it. Just
PlayStation wanted it.
But Ed,
I think you have to be super
careful.
careful. I think you got to be super careful, like saying this layoff is due to that layoff.
Exactly. Yeah.
This economy is butt cheeks, man.
I think we got to be careful.
Layoffs are everywhere, so it's hard to say. This layoff.
Because
and the other thing too, I was going to say real quick,
we can be doom and gloom about all these reportings and all these fires, but the thing is, like, listen, for me at least, as long as they're still releasing games that I want to a quality that I, like Spider-Man 2, as long as they keep releasing games like that, as long as the live service games are an absolute dog shit,
right?
They can do whatever they want. I will be happy as a consumer. But if the quality in their single player games takes a huge drop, and the live service games just aren't hitting, then I'm going to have a fucking problem. But until that happens, you know what? Do what you do, and we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, because like as much as I appreciate like the the Jaffe reporting, though I disagree with the way it was carried out and how inflammatory it is. There's like a lot of conjecture to even just the announcement of them leaving. Right, we don't know if it's a firing, if it's a layoff. We don't know why they would leave, or this, that, or the other thing. Right, and then so we could go like, well, this a little birdie told me this, a little bit a birdie told me that, and it doesn't. It at the end of the day, it's just speculating to speculate, and like Connie Booth leaving. As I said it on my show, it sucks because she's been with the company since the PS1, but the PlayStation 1 is not, PlayStation, the PlayStation we know and love is not dead because Connie left.
Right.
No, it'd be funny to, it'd be like, Steve Jobs when he passed. Is Apple done?
This is not coming from David Jaffe. This is coming from Jason Schreier. And he has a lot of inside sources, and usually he bats 10 out of 10.
I don't put too much weight in Jason Schreier when developers have called.
Real talk, and I'll be truthful with you, Basher. I have no. If it was in the past 48 hours, I have no idea because I have not been on social media much. So I would trust Jason.
I like to see.
You don't put a lot of faith in with Jason Schreier. Like basically the guy,
because you've had developers come out and say, no, that's not true, Jason Schreier. Like that's actually false. Like no, actually. Like, so I take what he says with a grain of salt.
Well, no, I kind of want to go back to what Mr. Bambit was saying a second ago, though. He made a good point. This isn't about just Connie or one person. Like, Connie's been there for a very long time. Times are changing. The PlayStation brand has changed. The Xbox brand has changed. I would rather see management make the shift. Now, it just so happens we hear about it. But if maybe it wasn't reported, maybe we wouldn't have even heard about it, which is fine. Let them make the changes to make the product better. We're the consumer. We're the consumer at the end of the day. If they're working internally to get newer talent in there, bright ideas, fresh ideas, new technology, how to push the brand forward, good for them. That's what they're supposed to do, right? I think that's... And at the end, it's supposed to give us a better product. Now, if it doesn't, we don't buy it. If it does, then their strategy worked. They're going to find out one way or the other, but they're making these strategic moves. And this happens, like you said, with God rest the great, Steve Jobs. Steve, we miss you. Come home. I miss Steve. But I mean, I really think at the end of the day, like Tim Cook stepped in. I think innovation dropped a bit, but Tim held the ship above water. I mean, Apple's one of the most powerful and lucrative companies out there. And they said without Steve, it was going to be
big shoes to fill.
Yeah, those are big shoes to fill. So, I mean, I see one person, and this goes for Xbox too. It's not necessarily just one person. You have to see like a plethora. And when I get nervous with Xbox is, and I bring it up all the time, but nobody brings this up. You see the founders of Playground Games leave. You see Pete Hines leave. You see Tango Works lead
Shinji
developer.
Mikami.
Yeah, Mikami leaves. You see these guys all leave. The minute they're acquired, like a year later, they just poof. They're gone. And it's like, that's something that's more alarming than somebody who's, somebody in corporate for 35 years. I
was going to say, Mooch, I was like shocked though. I thought Shinji was actually like retiring. He was like, no,
he's not.
I'm about to like work on another thing.
He's probably going to start his own. He's probably going to start his own place or his own gig.
Mooch,
yeah.
Which you got to remember, there's always succession planning in place too. Like that's something people don't realize within organizations. There's always some kind of form of succession planning.
Yeah.
Some of that's accelerated by a pivot in philosophy or initiatives that companies are trying to spearhead. And the other thing too, like we hear about layoffs. Yeah, certainly other, especially the tech sector has been impacted by layoffs, but at Sony, I know there's layoffs, but I mean, people need to ask the question, like, is this the percentage of layoffs that's happening? Is that unusual? I mean, because on average, companies turn over 3% of their staff annually anyway. So is this abnormal? And if it is, why is it happening? Is it loss of revenue? Is it, a shift in initiatives, philosophies? You can kind of, I always say, if you want to figure out what companies are doing, in terms of growth initiatives, follow the money trail. They can be
that's
laying
exactly
off.
What's happening is a shift in philosophy, and that's why it's apparently it's a shift in philosophy, and that's why it's occurring, which is why it's concerning to me, because if we're talking about a shift in philosophy for Sony, then we're talking about them exactly leaning on what you guys were saying before about them leaning on that games of service model, which is something I don't want Sony to lean on.
I think they're going to incorporate it, but I mean, like they've even said, we're not. I mean, Jim Ryan said, like we're not getting rid of first party,
and again, same amount of investment that they've put in 2020
so.
is still here. It's not like these things are going away. Like I'll take BRAP's thing when it comes to Media Molecule. Not just change your philosophy why you see some folks leave, right? Change of initiative. That's probably why you saw contractors slashed over there at Naughty Dog. Right. And as awful as it is, it's not like it's 1,000 people up and gone. I think a lot of us are catastrophizing things over dozens of layoffs where it can be, if this was like, oh my God, Sony's shift, it would be something much more cataclysmic than one of their smaller studios that is Media Molecule and a project that Naughty Dog was working on not coming to fruition.
I don't think I've ever asked anybody on the panel before, but like just in general, this is just from my knowledge. Mm-hmm. Are you, and I guess I'll ask everybody at the same time, how happy are you all with like do you prefer this PlayStation over a PlayStation that was like let's just say like 2 years ago?
Yeah, the PlayStation I knew and love is dead.
Yeah, no, the PS4 PlayStation was definitely preferred in my opinion, for sure.
Well, I wouldn't even say PlayStation 4. I said PlayStation 2. That was like probably the prime. Even PS3. PS3, like they were their backs against the wall, and then they were like,
yeah, but you guys,
Redo, you remember PS2 though? It wasn't defined by first party. They didn't.
Oh yeah, a lot of the third party deals.
Yeah, there was a lot of third party. It wasn't until PlayStation 3 that they really started doubling down towards the tail end of first party, and then further kind of really double down.
See,
the
you
PS4.
guys, I think it's too early. I think it's even too early to have that conversation. If you guys want, we always say we have short term. I say this all the time. We have short term memory as gamers. PS4 era came out with games, and then they went through quite a dip. End of 14, I think, all through 2015, where they were dry. They had nothing. And then they came out.
And then Bloodborne came out, and that changed everything.
And then they came out. Then they came.
You want to load that Bloodborne remaster?
Hold on, guys.
Oh, I will it every day. I wake up and I just am filled with disappointment that a Bloodborne remake by Bluepoint does not exist yet. But it will one day.
But my point
is,
for me,
my requirements as a console owner.
BRAP, let me finish my point real quick. Let me finish my point. My point is that then they came out swinging, and the end of the PS4 era was on fire. There's all of these games right now that we keep saying, let them cook, let them cook, let them cook. There's Sucker Punch out there. There's Naughty Dog's going to have, I'm telling you right now, I truly believe Factions is still coming out or whatever they're going to call it. They still have their new IP. There's all of these.
Within that like 4 to 5 year window of games being developed. So
yeah,
it's
so
just stop making shit.
That's the thing. And then you have there's going to be some of the games as a service games coming out. There's going to be,
and that's it. I can only speak for myself, but I don't think, I'm not a big fan of the shift to games as a service, like as a whole company. That's just not me. I prefer the PS4 direction. But I mean, that's just me. But
well, the
that's
but the PS4 direction and the Xbox One direction, Xbox and PlayStation weren't focused on that. Microsoft is now focused on that. All these companies are grabbing one of them. The EA went and grabbed Apex. They're all grabbing one. Sony needs one. So you can't really blame them for trying to get theirs.
I call it the Fortnite effect. Like everybody's chasing that bag, that mega bag.
Right? Just so I'm understanding on this, we're all okay with the fact of partaking in an ecosystem of Sony where they take 5 years to put out a AAA game that we're waiting for. Probably a little bit more than half of their generation.
That's the state of the industry right now.
So
I'm not okay with it. I would love.
My answer to that is this: is the reason why these games are taking so long to come out is because the funding that used to go into them, directed towards them, is not happening anymore because of games as a service.
Same investment from 3 years ago being put in.
How is that even?
Because we're seeing other publishers that are taking about the same time frame of putting out their games. That's just not how that works.
Insomniac is killing it.
Insomniac's the one that kind of breaks the mold where they're able to pump out games like crazy, which I'm shocked.
I guess what first part are you saying is like taking too long to make it for
well, specifically Naughty Dog in this conversation.
Okay, but Naughty Dog, we're 3 years as a generation. Naughty Dog, actually, if you look at their track record and cadence of releases, they're pretty much they're kind of skating in that direction towards releasing something towards.
Part 2 came out 2021?
Yeah,
2020.
2020, right? And now that's 3 years ago.
It's only been 3 years.
Yeah, and so like I don't know why we I get we all want a Naughty Dog game because Naughty Dog is like one of the best.
Also, I just killed a spider. Did anybody hear that smack? Or else, you know what? This noise cancellation is really doing wonders. Holy shit!
No, but it's just weird with the Naughty. Like it's been 3 years since their last game was critically acclaimed. We know like the software development lifecycle for AAA games is pretty long.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how it's okay. Well, a game's they're taking long. It's been 3 years, so they should have had to release the game. But that's
and not just that, but I mean, we've had Horizon.
They're devoting resources to gas.
It's about 4 to 5 years, I'd say, in terms of game development.
3 games last generation, and one of them was really, 3 games. We had Uncharted 4, Lost Legacy, which was a smaller title, and then Last of Us Part 2 at the very, very end of the generation. We got 3 games, all generation from Naughty Dog.
Lost Legacy wasn't even them. I thought Lost
Legacy.
Legacy.
The higher quality games we get, the more time I'm willing to give. Right?
Well,
like,
but I mean,
give me that high quality experience. I'll wait 3, 4, 5 years. I don't give a shit.
You've got
but real talk, like that does concern me, but to an extent of like how much money gets put into one project, and if that one project does not make that investment back, then what happens? It gets into the what if scenarios again,
and that's picturing why they're trying to lean on the live service, because you get that live service, just residual income, then they'll be more willing to take those risks, because it is super risky to put so much money into these games.
And that's why you're seeing studios going, hey, listen, we have a games as a service element. Right? And that's how they're getting their funding. But it does concern me, because we are seeing games that are becoming just with scope so incredibly broad, so incredibly huge. You take a look at like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for me, is way too much of a video game. I don't need a video game where I get lost for 100+ hours. The scope bloated, right? You get a whole bunch of like old ideas in a just new cellophane. That does concern me, but it's not just a problem for PlayStation. It is a problem for EA. It's a problem for Activision. Obviously,
the whole industry
at large.
Xbox as well. They're slow to get games out as well. I mean, really, it's all of them. But I do think at the end of the day, you're going to see what happened in PS4 happen to PS5. You're going to see, starting next year, you're going to start seeing all those studios that we haven't seen anything from. Everyone complains every week. I don't hear anything from PlayStation. I don't hear anything from... Well, they're not doing anything. They're not sitting on their hands. They're making games. So we're going to see something in 24, 25, 20... So as we go out of this...
2 years ago, Mooch, that they had 25 PS5 games currently in production at different varying points of either pre-production or currently in production. So...
Right, so I think
greatness takes time. Greatness takes time, and in my opinion, like everybody's they're still chasing that Fortnite buck. Like the impact that Fortnite made on the industry, they're chasing that huge money. But in my opinion, there's only room for one or two huge players in any space. So you get your Fortnite, you get your PUBG. Everybody else falls by the wayside. So they need. I feel like they need to kind of look into the future and kind of look for something different. Now that's much easier said than done, of course. But everybody's still chasing that Fortnite bug.
I worry about that because I feel that for every 9 live service games that are created, or every 10 that are created, rather, 9 are going to fail. Like, how many get made every 100%. Year? And we're still, where are we sitting all these years later? It's still Destiny, Apex, Fortnite. It's the same ones. What happened to all these new ones that got made? They came out, they went, they disappeared, and everyone's still playing those core live service games that kind of got their foot in and are now the foothold of what live service is. And all these other ones just come and go.
Yeah. So my question is this though. Like everybody's talking about Insomniac and how they're killing it right, which they are. Like again, I love Spider-Man 2. But in comparison to from a development standpoint, the reason why Insomniac churns out games so quickly is because, first of all, if you look at Spider-Man 2 and you look at Spider-Man on PS4, there really is not that crazy of a difference graphically. From an engine standpoint, they used the same engine. They churned it out in the same way. They had a city already built out, and they just added upon that city. The development process as a whole wasn't as extensive. What I'm talking about is a AAA experience from Sony that is completely built from the ground up. If you look at The Last of Us Part 1 and The Last of Us Part 2, they're two completely different games altogether, even from a mechanical standpoint and the way the game plays overall. Mm-hmm. So like, yeah, I get it from Insomniac. Okay, you want to talk about they churned out Miles Morales, Spider-Man on PS4. They had remastered. But these are technically all the same games. Like that they're just kind of hashing on and adding on.
What about the new Ratchet and Clank?
Yeah, what about
Ratchet and Clank is literally probably, to me, the only game where they had to look at something that looked really old, that was working on an old engine, and they threw a brand new coat of paint on it and made it look like a Pixar movie. But other than that, if you're looking at Spider-Man, Spider-Man is essentially like they made it run 4K, runs a lot better. They added to the city.
It's an iteration.
I don't know about that rift apart like comparison to.
But if you look at
PS4,
you look at Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us Part 2, God of War, you look at these titles that are completely new and groundbreaking. And I'm not saying, like, listen, again, I love Spider-Man 2. The game is phenomenal to play it because Spider-Man 1 was a blast to play. But at the end of the day, if I look at it from a development standpoint, I'm comparing apples to apples. Because if I look at Spider-Man 2 and I look at Spider-Man 1, there really is not that much of a huge difference. So if I were to show that to my nephew, he'd probably think it. What do you mean,
understand. Don't listen. I don't want this to be the basher hour. I understand what he's getting at. One of the strengths.
We're sit here and say Spider-Man 2 looks completely different than Spider-Man 1.
I don't think anyone's arguing that point, but they added a lot to it along with. But then also the rift apart comparison in 2016 was very just not good.
Spider-Man 2, then I could say maybe, but like I've gone back and looked at like clips of Spider-Man 2 on PS4. I'm sorry, of Spider-Man 2018 on PS4 versus Spider-Man 2 on PS5, and as good as they looked on PS4, they almost look like cartoonish in comparison. If you're just taking,
we're talking about NPCs.
Spider-Man,
you guys know there are comparison screenshots for Spider-Man Remastered and Spider-Man Part 2, where Spider-Man Remastered looks better.
Well, yeah, it's not doing as much.
I didn't check that out yet, so I can't argue one way or the other. But I will say, like, the whole Ratchet and Clank comparison, which I do want to hone in on, was just, I personally don't think that was a good one. 2016 and Rift Apart, they look very vastly different games.
So let's
wait. No, we can't just click. No, we are not going to take that out of the conversation because that's part of their portfolio, along with Wolverine, which is also brand new assets and doing different things, as well as it being a rated M game, along with having different people a part of that project. That's also having different portfolios along with that. Like I can understand your comparison with Spider-Man, but kind of to dismiss Rift Apart and then their upcoming game.
I'm not dismissing Rift Apart. I'm saying to you is that
you just said it was like more of a Pixar version, a prettier version, which I don't agree with.
I'm saying because it looks like a Pixar movie, and Pixar movies are really good looking. What is that? What are you talking about?
Oh, you're trying to say it's like a prettier version. That's all you're like. You're trying to like.
You're saying that's the only difference.
That game looks so good that it looks like a Pixar movie that you're playing.
Yeah, but you're saying you're saying that's the only difference.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, of course, there's mechanics, there's gameplay things that are in the game, fine, whatever. But I'm talking about Spider-Man right now.
I think the
and how people are saying,
brought up
but you brought up Rift Apart, and even with Spider-Man, I understand it's a sequel, so of course, like with sequels, you don't get like, unless it's like I don't want to use the Matrix as an example because it's not a video game, the movie. But with sequels, they're pretty much the same. It's the same template. But I will say the scale scope, even the traversal, and how fluid the traversal is, much better.
Oh yeah.
On Spider-Man 2,
Neo is a game, okay?
Yeah, I mean, like it's so the combat's more fluid. It's just like some of these scenes, these set pieces.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about development process and how long development takes. Not about how like when you look at Spider-Man and you look at the engine that Spider-Man used and you look at development processes. Okay, in a pipeline for Spider-Man 2, the development processes. The workload to build Spider-Man 2 was probably entailed half the work because the groundwork was already done. Okay. So how do you compare development timeline with a AAA title like what I'm trying to say here, where these titles are taking a really long time to come out from like a Naughty Dog or from like a Sucker Punch?
Basher, can I wait? Hold on. Let me ask Basher a question. Okay, then where's Gear 6?
I can't tell you that.
I mean, I think everyone on the panel understands that, like, I see where he's coming from. Going to take less time. Yeah. Like, no one's arguing that's not the case.
Like, I just think Asylum kind of like used some of the assets for Arkham City. I think everyone like knew that, but like when you just mentioned like Ratchet and Clank, and then just trying to say it's a Pixar, but also dismissing the game itself, which inadvertently you may did it purposely or not. I'm not saying one way or the other.
What if we just move past it?
Mr. Badman. I do see.
Because I understand what he's saying, guys. It's like theoretically, you have a lot of the ideas that, like, the baseline ideas of Spider-Man still is there. You have like the physics worked out
because we're arguing the fact of development time and time frame, and they want to use Spider-Man and Insomniac as an example. But you kind of, if you're starting from scratch, a brand new IP development, you can't use it as an example because the groundwork is already done.
If Miles Morales took place in fucking Chicago and then Spider-Man 2 took place in Los Angeles, we're not getting these games in the same time frame we're getting.
That's what I'm trying to say, is that like you want to use Insomniac. Don't get me wrong, they're a phenomenal studio. But I'm just saying to you is that like the comparison between starting from scratch a new IP that is going to move consoles and
no one's argued that though. No one's argued that point.
I just think people mention Insomniac in this breath because they're putting out a lot of games and they're quality games. Along with, they're also making Wolverine, and they're also making a multiplayer game, and probably a spin-off game in between 2 and 3.
Right, but that's all these.
And we also don't know how many people that work there. Sorry.
Oh, it's a large team. That's the thing. They have one in my state,
team. Yeah,
as well as one in California. So
we also know that what's it called? Ben Studios working on a new AAA IP. That's
Ben doesn't work
should have been Days Gone too. You fucking idiot.
I was gonna say I'd be happy with the Days Gone.
I would too, but they're not doing that.
How are you gonna leave us on that cliffhanger, man? That cliffhanger.
Well, the thing is, everyone says they want. Wait. Everyone says they want Days Gone too, but it's not the game that people were like expecting. It was gonna have like multiplayer aspects to it, and not like Days Gone 1.
No, that story caught me more than I was expecting. I mean, Days Gone.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying a lot of people are not expecting what Days Gone 2 was going to actually be.
I platinum Days Gone. I will say this much. I think you guys will agree with me. I love the game really, and you guys know anything zombies, sign Mooch up. I'm there. But they could have just shortened that game a smidgen. I thought
once you got to the army base, it kind of fucking took
forever. They're like, you got to go back out in that whole area where it was like torched. And I'm like, my God. I mean, it just felt like it kept going.
That game had like an extra 5 to 6 hours.
Yes.
Once we realized the girlfriend was alive, they could have kind of wrapped it up.
Yeah, right. Yes. Like I felt like once he found Sarah, it's like okay, it's done. It's like it
was like another act or two.
You got this whole interpolitics of the army base. And shit. I'm like,
I was like, oh boy.
Not here.
It was like I was watching The Walking Dead for a second.
Yes, it was literally like even the epilogue in Red Dead. I don't get me wrong.
Dude.
I was like,
that game should have ended when
with Arthur.
With
Arthur.
Yeah, I agree.
Not that now we're playing as John Marston in the
just basically
leading up to the first Red Dead.
how he gets caught essentially.
I don't want to build fences and build a house. You took all my guns, you took all my money, and now I'm a fucking ranch hand. What are we doing?
I was
here?
down for the. I was down
ranch
as an
hand.
RDR1 guy. I was down for the exposition, but that's. Just
I
me.
mean, it was.
I will say I like the attention to detail where they were just like, yeah, John can't really swim. Still,
Yeah, that was funny.
Listen, I gotta get.
But no, you know what's funny is like with Days Gone, like I couldn't stand the protagonist's name. Like I'm like, why do they give him the name of a porn star? Like I'm like, that's not. Yeah, Deacon St. John. I'm like, come on.
Yo, that's too
Like,
true.
what is like
That's one of
why?
those weird things.
So-
where, like I don't want to be those people in a room trying to think up names for characters because any name I think of, I'm like, dude, that's the dumbest fucking name. Like,
I gotta
don't
say
know,
this,
man.
but I got a couple of
He's
super
creative.
chats here, and then I'm gonna get Mr. Badbit all riled up real quick. I gotta get Badbit a little riled
Okay.
up. True.
Just tell him that Bloodborne's the worst game ever.
I won't
Yeah,
do that.
shut
No,
your
I won't
beautiful
do that.
mouth.
I won't do
Sounds
that.
like you are okay.
All right.
I will say so. Shout out to
Go for
TrueWiddy.
it.
He says, and these are way behind. I want to say shout out to all you guys. Thank you for the super chats, guys. He says, TrueWiddy says, Remedy is the Pulp Fiction of gaming narrative. Shout out to TrueWiddy. Yobo1245. He says the achievement for beating the final boss in Hi-Fi Rush. This is when we were talking about Game Pass back then. The achievement for beating the final boss in Hi-Fi Rush, an 8 to 12 hour game, is at 12.74%. Meanwhile, the platinum trophy for Spider-Man 2 is at 10% already. Why? We already kind of got into all that. These are a bit rhetorical. So shout out to Yobo.
Completion
Miss-
percentages for that game are pretty impressive.
For which one?
For Spider-Man 2, for
Yes,
both
they
the
are.
platinum
Oh,
percentage
yeah.
and the completion. I think it's the highest I've ever seen.
I'm
for
gonna
people that both
platinum that
completed
son of
the
a bitch
campaign
by
and getting the
Monday.
platinum.
I'm platinuming that by Monday. I'm putting a deadline because I love it. I'm just gonna play it right through. Shout out to Mr.
I mean,
Grimm.
how many people did you see like say 2018 Spider-Man was my first platinum? That's me personally. I'm speaking about me. 2018 Spider-Man
Wow.
was my first platinum, and I've seen so many people say the same thing about the new Spider-Man 2. So it's just cool. It's just
I
it's
did
cool to
see a lot of people say that was their first. I mean, honestly, I got to be honest with you. I can't wait. I'm having a field day playing Spider-Man 2. I haven't said that enough. I really haven't. Mr.
Hey, Mooch,
Badbit.
I gotta get out of here, dude. I'm gonna jet.
Okay, Basher. I appreciate you being here, buddy. We'll see you next week, brother.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, peace,
I love
Basher.
you. Don't. I know it got a little heated there for a second, but
Everybody
we all
loves
love you.
Just don't say anything about Ratchet and Clank.
it's Crossfire, man. It's
Exactly.
supposed to get heated.
Don't mention
That's
Pixar.
right. It's
Yeah, don't say anything about Pixar or Ratchet and Clank. Yeah, be careful.
it's Crossfire. That's what we do here. Shout out to Basher.
Wowie.
Shout out to Basher. The Basher will definitely. I'll plug the Twitter and we'll catch you next week, buddy.
Take it easy, guys.
Peace, Basher.
Later,
Mr. Grimm
See you, man.
says he says Basher's right. The reason a lot of us are hardcore Xbox because we remember how fun the OG Xbox and 360 were, and we as gamers just want that Xbox what it used to be. Shout out to Mr. Grimm. I agree with you there. Slayin' Chilean, he says Insomniac said if fans want it, they will make a Venom spinoff. Should the spinoff be more of a
I think
Miles-
everybody wants it.
I think they do too. Yeah, he says he think they want more of a Miles game or a full
Yeah,
spinoff. Might be like a Miles
I think
game.
it'll be like a mouse.
I don't even think this is like a we might maybe like listen, they already fucking
Yep.
it's already happening. I'm 100% convinced that shit is already in the works.
Anyone concerned that Insomniac's only going to be like a Marvel studio?
My thing. Okay,
I-
this. I think I have this conversation with somebody before, and I said,
Yeah.
I will say this: if they want to make Marvel games and they're not being pressured into making Marvel games, then I'm fine with it. If they're being pressured into making Marvel games, then I have a problem.
Red,
with
I
it.
like that, Red. Because I have absolutely
Because if they want to go make
no
a Doctor
idea.
Strange game or like a very different type of game, then I'm totally
Ooh.
fine with that.
I don't want them to be known as these are just the Marvel guys. Like I don't want that to happen. But at the same time, if they told me like Insomniac is going to be making these individual games like Wolverine, and then they're going to make a Black Panther game
Or
and they're all shared
Daredevil.
universe, and
Isn't
they're
the-
going to lead to like an Avengers game, I'll be like, fuck yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
But,
You're so good
I
at
want
it.
it, and
They're
I don't
just
want it
so
at the
good
same
at it.
time.
They're
I
so
just-
good
I
at it, and
trust
they
them
respect.
more.
They
Yeah,
respect
trust
the
them with
IP.
this shit.
They respect the comic book readers. They
Look
respect
at
the
Crystal
IP.
Dynamics with that fucking Avengers game. That game was horrible.
Bro, let's
Honestly,
not talk about that in the Spider-Man gameplay.
but we
in that
are
game
looking
was,
at that, right? You're looking at
interesting.
Spider-Man, you're looking at Wolverine. There's hints that they say that remember they were showing that all over online today. That they had the was it Murdoch? The Murdoch building there. They had that for Daredevil.
Oh no! So like even in 2018, like there was an Easter egg about the Murdochs,
Oh,
as
okay,
well as
okay,
Jessica Jones, I
Jessica
believe.
Jones, the
Doctor Strange, of
Sanctorum, and
course,
this
and
one,
like all this
yeah,
stuff, like Black Panther, the Wakanda
Punisher.
embassy. Like they have a lot of like Easter eggs, and then they reconfirmed, which was so weird because I don't know why they reconfirmed it, because I swear I read in their article that, what was it, like 2 years ago, that they were like basically saying Wolverine's in the same universe as Spider-Man, but then they reconfirmed it again today. So I was just like, I kind of knew that.
Yeah.
It's all good.
They just have such respect for the IP that you gotta love it.
Yeah, and that their handling of it, it's like at this point, it's like if someone wanted to give them the keys to all the Marvel IP, if Disney came along and said, "Hey, listen, we're gonna give you, all these fucking IP, all these characters, do with them what you will," I don't think I'd be that upset about it.
No, if there's one company, it would be them, in my opinion. They've just shown great care. They handled the IP with great care. They care about the movies. They care about the comic book readers.
Yes,
and they've just been so careful.
Yeah, they really do. They do pay attention to detail. I completely agree. We're not going to get down this rabbit hole again. I think Yash. We shout out to Yash for the super chat. He goes, "Let's be honest. PlayStation sells because of Call of Duty marketing deals. I think there's a little more to it than that. The first party does not sell more than 15% of the install base. I don't know how many times we have to say that. That's not exactly." They're not. You're not going to sell.
I've never bought in a game because some company had a marketing right. I'll tell you that.
Well, there's over how many Switches are out there right now? How many Nintendo Switches are out there?
120 plus.
120 million. They're not going to sell 120 million copies of Mario Wonder, Yash. So you got to that is, I don't know who runs with those ridiculous.
Yeah, I hate that argument. It's like, there's 140 million PS4s, but they only sold 30 million God of Wars. Like, that's terrible. And it's like,
I mean, yeah. I think it's just dumb. Like, anytime like somebody says that, it's like, dude, it's good sales. Like, because if we're gonna go that rabbit hole, then you could just argue these multi-platform games didn't sell well. Like, I love like Resident Evil 4, right? And then they confirmed like it's a 5 million or something like that remake.
Yeah, 5 million sold.
And then Street Fighter 6 only sold like 2 point something million.
That's first
I
month,
believe.
Yeah, Street Fighter.
And that was a big success.
I think all the way to September this time. Like,
oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
that was a big success for them.
But the thing was, it's a huge success for them. That's like the biggest Street Fighter's ever been. And it's like, if we're gonna go that rabbit hole, then we're gonna say a lot of multi-platform games don't sell well.
I mean, even think about like some of the most popular multi-platform. Like, well, then Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't that popular. I mean, how many PCs, PlayStations, Xboxes are there out there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like it really would. Like, if you want to use that metric, you sound even dumber when you try to
casual gamers
use it even more broader.
Outnumber us hardcore, and the casual gamers don't buy all of these big games. They buy maybe a FIFA or an NBA.
Oh, by like 10 to 1, easy.
None of these games, doesn't matter what it is, there isn't going to be a game that comes out that sells anywhere near 50% of the install base.
Right.
No, I think install base is the dumbest metric you could use. One of the dumbest.
6 will not sell half the install base of PlayStation.
Yeah. And if any game is going to do it, it's going to be that game. I think install base is one of the dumbest metrics there is.
Just go play the game. I honest to God, here's how I live my life. I play the game, and I just hope to God it gets a sequel.
Exactly.
That's how I live.
I like it.
That's all that matters. When we get to like the sales data of X, Y, and Z, it's like, I am not a businessman. I don't care how the sausage gets made in that regard when it comes to the money aspect. I just hope that there's enough for a sequel. That's it.
Mr. Badbit, you have taught me peace, love, and tranquility and happiness.
Yes.
That's the great.
Like, I
Mr.
love
Badbit.
Starfield. I get it. It's a few bugs, and I love Spider-Man, and I get it. You play as a cube in the last patch. I understand that. They're both great. I don't care how many people played it on week 1 or day 2. I don't care. I like those games.
And the percentage of us that are here debating and that do care are so small, and it's so easy to forget. Like the online like landscape you see on Twitter is
it's not real.
It's not real. It's not related. You go out into the real world and talk to your coworker who only plays Call of Duty or Madden, and they don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like it's easy to forget that. It's easy to be like, oh, everybody's ragging on this game, but then when you go on the real world, like, what did you get? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Like, when you talk about like the completion rates for like XYZ, like, for example, Spider-Man, that's awesome. Like, completion rates for games to begin with, it's hard for people to beat goddamn games. Like, any developer would tell you that. It's really hard. So to see someone go out of the way and like 100% Hi-Fi Rush or 100% Spider-Man 2, that's a goddamn achievement.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And they're
That's
like,
awesome.
They only completed it because it's 30 hours. Dude, 30 hours for most people who have kids and jobs, that 30 hours takes them months.
That's a
weeks.
big
Like,
ask.
and that's if you only play that one game and nothing else. So, like, we don't have to have games that are 1,000 hours. Most people.
My
are never
girlfriend
gonna
didn't know if I was
1,000
alive
hours.
that weekend. Okay.
Look, I'm just surprised you still have a girlfriend.
I'm very surprised. You know, so it's just it's semantics, and that's what like I try my best like not to get into the semantics of it all. At the end of the day, you're right, gamers. It's like at the end of the day, this audience is as much as we love it is small and it's tight knit, and that's why the conversation around it should be that of a bigger conversation rather than like what's the one that's having on Twitter. It's like let's find a different avenue to talk about this that's gonna cling and do something different.
Speaking of that, Mr. Babbitt, let's talk about what only happens on Twitter and doesn't seem to bother anybody in the real world. What is all this ridiculousness around the PlayStation 5 Slim? It needs a one-time internet connection. Why the panic, Mr. Badbit? Tell me.
Because people really want it. People are really eager to find PlayStation's Achilles heel and their heel turn, because that writes a really good article, that makes a really good video, and it makes for a really good podcast. So like a lot of people want to find the faults in something because if it bleeds, it leads. Similar to like how Xbox folks feel, right? Like whenever Xbox does something, they feel as though like the internet just hounds on them. So like when it comes to this story, it proves how still ineffective we are as researchers to go, oh, this is why this is happening. This is how many times it has to said upload. And, you know, instead we just look at a headline. We don't even read maybe half the article, let alone give it a click. And then we just like blindly react to it as if we do have the entire information.
It's so common. It is so common.
It's so common. Like I read that, I was like, this is the dumbest thing in the world. Then I clicked the article, I was like, oh wait, no, this is like a regulation type of thing. This is an anti-piracy thing, and you only have to do it once to pair it with it because they don't want you to use a second party drive.
Yeah.
All right, makes sense.
You know what kills me, Mr. Badbit?
What's that?
That's the first time I ever call you Mr. Badbit, by the way. I just realized that. I always call you, it's like formal, right? Mr. Badbit.
Mr. Badbit.
Yes, sir.
I always call you Badbit. But you know what's interesting, Badbit, is that
Yes, sir.
you talk about the article. It's like, you know, it kills me. People don't read.
Right.
That's so scary, by the way.
They don't.
So
People
scary.
make decisions and formulate thoughts, opinions without actually reading.
But
It's a headline culture. It's a headline culture.
It's why on the trophy room we try to read as much as the article, give the credit to the writer as possible, because we want the room to be as informed as we are before we talk about the situation at hand. That's at least my philosophy in it.
Brap.
So, you know, what's that?
No, I want to say to Brap, or Mr. Badbit, explain this to me, please. You have to, when you brought your Xbox Series X home, and you had to hook it up, it required an internet connection to set it up.
Yeah.
I think the same for the PS5.
Yes.
Yeah.
All consoles require internet connection.
And the main reason here, my
PC requires internet connection.
Yes. Well, yes, because you're playing Steam games, right? So you'd have to be
to set it up too. Yeah.
Right.
Mo, let's be honest. We see who the people are. I mean, are there some PlayStation guys bitching about it? Yes, but majority of the people bitching about it are Xbox guys that are like, "Oh, you gave Xbox One hell for having DRM. This is like DRM, so now we're going to stick it to PlayStation," trying to make it like this is equivalent to requiring internet on all the time, having a camera that watches you all the time that's required, having it so that you can't, let your friends borrow your games. It's like it's not even close to being on the same level, but they're trying to like.
They're trying to equate it to 2013. They're trying to equate it to 2013. And if you need an optional disk drive, you have a digital console. Like you already need the internet.
I kept saying this on Twitter. It's like we have a bunch of people on the internet bitching about something needing the internet. And it's like, does this apply to you? No, you have the internet. Then shut the fuck up. Like, why are we having this conversation? Who does not have the internet in 2023? Oh, you have a cell phone? Congratulations. Hotspot internet. Like, who is affected by this requirement of the internet? Like, are some people like the Taliban in caves going to be buying this PS5 and not even they have the fucking internet? So, like, who is it that does not have the internet that's affected by this one-time need to set up the disk drive?
Yeah,
And
it's just looking for the hill turn.
these optional disk drives are for the digital consoles, and the digital consoles require the internet. If you didn't have internet, why are you buying a digital? It's totally overblown. People are just looking for their get back.
Like I said, it's a tit for tat. Oh, you did it to us back in 2013. We're going to do it to you now, even though it's been a decade and the world's changed.
I just don't. But the problem is, though, if they wanted to have that argument, the argument should have been done in 2020. This is what consoles do now. And isn't Game Pass DRM?
It all is, really.
Right. I mean, listen,
It
if
still
you
is,
don't have an internet connection, you're not playing anything on Game Pass.
Mooch, your marriage is DRM these days.
And if it's one thing, Xbox is known for being ahead of the curve. Sometimes they're too early, even with their DRM and stuff. Like they're on point. They're just too early many times. So like here we are in a DRM world, but then in 2013 nobody was ready to hear that.
Xbox
but
wanted this in 2013.
It was so much more than just the DRM, though. It was the camera watching you that people had an issue with, and then they also act like, oh, the Xbox One failed because PlayStation guys were talking all this shit, and it's like, well, no, the Xbox One failed because even Xbox guys were like, we don't like this. So it's not all PlayStation guys did this, and that's why Xbox got hurt. No, Xbox shot themselves in the foot with that kind of turn and direction, and a lot of Xbox guys were like, yes, no, we don't like that, and we're not going to buy this console.
Well, it was funny. The media pushed the whole like DRM thing is bad in 2013, and now the media applauses and embraces it. So it's like I think Gamut said it. I think Xbox and Microsoft were ahead of their time. And they got hit for it back then. But realistically, Microsoft's original intent and what they wanted you to do in 2013, 2014, they're doing it right now. But now they're doing it
commonplace.
But now they're doing it to glorious applause. So it's just
but we're not locking discs to consoles, which is what they were trying to do. They were going to lock your disc to your console.
That whole you can't resell your game shit. That was bullshit.
That was the your mandatory connect, not optional. Your mandatory connect is on all the time. It is always listening to you, which obviously nowadays all our devices.
All of our devices are listening to us.
People are like, "Oh fuck no." You're
Dude,
not
our
going to
phones
spy on
listen
me,
to us. It's insane.
The
it's
phone
like,
does.
you'll
Siri
mention
was just
something.
yelling at me.
It's like I said something about like Marvel.
Mr. Badbit?
Yeah.
Oh man, but no, like everything listens to you. It's like you mention Marvel, and then you go to Instagram, and then there's like Marvel ads and stuff like that. I'm like, oh,
it's crazy how the landscape changes and you look at things differently. Like 5 years down the line.
We're
100%.
We're that frog,
and we're all just okay with it now.
They slowly turn the heat up, so now we're those frogs in the boiling water, but they just slowly turn that temperature up.
Yeah, 100%.
Back in 2013, Xbox was just trying to drop us in the boiling water, and people were like, "Nope, not today, sir."
Yeah, I think, and just
it is.
the one thing, Nova, I think you said though, they weren't the whole you couldn't sell the physical disc thing. That you're right, and that was awful.
Thing.
But the one thing they were doing with if I remember right, the physical disc it wasn't tied to your console; it was tied to your account. So what they were trying to say is, if I went to your house on Xbox One, and tell me if I'm wrong, if you had the Xbox One, I went in and signed in at your Xbox One, and I had brought my game over. If I put the game in there, it was linked to my account. It would just ping it. So that would mean that I couldn't leave it just with you because you didn't own it, right?
I mean,
so
we remember the PlayStation mic drop where it's like, this is how you share games on PS4.
Right.
Thank you. We just handed the thing. So like, it wasn't just the DRM. It was a combination of these things that it wasn't just PlayStation guys. Yes, PlayStation guys took the piss out of it and hammered that shit, of course, because that's what fanboys do. The media also pushed it.
The media pushed hard against it.
Xbox guys also pushed as being a negative thing because, let's be honest, that honestly isn't a positive thing.
Well, yeah, that part you brought up, Nova, was definitely not. But I mean, myself, and you guys know this, like same thing you just said. We all have Alexa, or you have Google Home right now, or you have Siri. But like, I didn't.
All those other things now are commonplace.
I didn't mind the Kinect. I didn't mind that stuff. I looked forward to taking tech to the next level. I understand the concerns. I definitely did. That's why what did they sell? They sold the covers for the Kinect. You remember the cover that covered the camera? Didn't mean it wasn't. It didn't mean it wasn't listening, but that you could cover the camera. You didn't have to use the camera 24/7. But
they were really trying to encroach on the GameStop, the used game sales.
Right.
That's what they were really trying to move in.
Yes.
Wasn't the story behind that like they had spoken to the industry, like developers and publishers, and publishers kind of wanted that. They wanted to push that.
Because remember, like PS3 gen, like they had
me.
like the multiplayer codes and stuff like that, Assassin's Creed and I think Tomb Raider and like all these other games.
How many millions of people aren't given those developers?
Oh, I remember that they tried to sell the codes. I remember that.
Yeah, so if like you bought the game used, you weren't able to play the multiplayer aspect of the game unless you got the code or like bought it through their like PlayStation or Xbox stores.
But listen, gents, I gotta go. I love talking to all of y'all.
Oh,
Mr. Bad Bitch.
Mr. Bad Bitch.
I know.
Hello.
It was such a pleasure. But no, I gotta go. But guys, thank you all for the lively discussion, the debate, and that's everybody. Make sure Basher is still alive. Go on Platform X.
I just
check up on him.
He's doing.
I think we were a little bit too mean to the boy.
He's doing lovely.
So let's.
Hey, he's the new panel member. He's got to get.
This is
You got to get initiated. This is initiation.
Fair enough. You know what? Say some mean shit to him. No.
I'll call it neighboring his house later on if everyone.
Yeah, a little TP. It's what is it like hooligan night or whatever? But yeah, no, it's Halloween Eve. It's the Devil's Playground. All that said, you can follow me over at
you know
Mr.
about that, Mr.
Badbit.
Badbit? Oh, wow.
What's that? Goosey Night. That's it. There you
Goosey
go.
Night or the Devil's
There you go.
Playground, which
There you go.
and it's called something else too. It's like two other names.
I forget something with the devil or whatever. Anyway, you can find me over at Mr. Badbit on Twitter. You can find my show, The Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast made by the players for the players, where each and every Thursday, me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest, the greatest in all things PlayStation. We talked a lot about what we're talking about here today, but we also have our deep dive, spoiler-free discussion on Spider-Man. Kyle gives his review in progress of Alan Wake, and so much more. So go follow the Trophy Room at PS Trophy Room on on Twitter, and follow the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever pods are caught. You can find us there, or you can find us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. I gotta get
That's
that.
an Mr.
I listen every week, man. Tell Kyle I said hi. I listen every single week. I love your show.
You.
Hey, you know
anybody
what,
listening here who hasn't listened, please give them a shot. It's an
Mr.
absolutely wonderful show.
Yeah, our mission of the show is really that, like, if you're an Xbox guy, I hope you get something out of it. We may not agree on everything, but I don't want you to think that, like, I'm like Jim Ryan's best friend, because we're not on speaking terms. He doesn't know who I am. And like, if you're a Nintendo person and you're eating glue and you're loving that Mario Wonder, God bless you. I hope you can enjoy our show too. It's really meant for all. That's the mission here. So
it's in if you love video games podcasts, in my opinion. And that's why I love it. And that's why I love talking to Mr. Badbit. So it's good to be on another show with you, brother.
Thank you. Likewise. You know what, gamers, keep selling the show, because you did a way better job than I. Let me tell you. Everybody,
hey, man, I'm down. I'm ready for the contract, brother.
Mr. Badbit, let Kyle know we'd love to have him on the show too. Here, one week we'd like to have you both on. That would be great.
Honestly, I don't think he'd survive, Mooch.
Oh, I think
you
he'd
saw
be
what we
great.
did to Basher. The poor guy. You know?
No, listen.
And this was his opening night, and I think we were really mean.
No, did we scare him off?
Listen, Bash. No. Basher had to go. He legitimately.
Basher's a little bashful.
He absolutely loves Crossfire. He loves banter. So I got news for you. This is definitely a home away from home for him. He's going to be happy. But we'd love to have Kyle on. It'd be great to have you both on, and it'll be a TLC evening on Crossfire. Okay, we'll do it close to a special holiday. We'll do a holiday edition of the trophy room here on Crossfire. I look forward to it.
Well, boys, thank you for having me, Mooch, as always.
Outstanding, buddy. Thank you, Mr. Badbit. I appreciate it. You guys already heard. Go over and check out his channel. He does an outstanding job. We'll do another little outro for him. But you know what? Here it is. It's been 2 hours and 40 minutes. These guys want to play Alan Wake. These guys want to play Spider-Man. They want to play video games. I'm keeping them for Mario Wonder. I do have 2 super chats, and then we'll do outros. Lord Metroid says, Tears of the Kingdom, still game of the year. Is all good panel. Thank you, Lord Metroid. Appreciate that. And God Emperor Sofa King says, if the Xbox Connect was done today, it would be openly accepted due to the fact people are not as private as they were in 2013. I could not have said that better. Everybody is much, much more acclimated to being on camera and being in front of everybody. Everybody can't wait to take a selfie and post it on the
Hey,
net.
Xboxes are ahead of that curve, man. I've
They
believed
were.
that for many years. They're too early in many instances.
Completely agree on multiple fronts of technology too, Gambit, not just this. So I completely
100%.
agree. That being said, let me go in reverse order and say thank you to everybody here in the chat. You guys are all phenomenal. Thank you for the super chats. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button on the way out. I also should say Tofo Chaka, I think I'm saying it wrong. Subscribe to the channel. Your name comes up in lights. Hit it and pop your name all over the place. It's fantastic. We appreciate it. Shout out to Olamoka. I see a Sergeant 12 out there. Even the great X-Hawk who's out there doing his damnedest to combat the Mooch. But the great X-Hawk who's with us as well tonight. As well as Trey Bone, who had some great points and some interesting points. We'll leave it at that. Otherwise, we'll go another 2 hours. That being said, guys, I want to say thanks to the great Basement Radio Arcade podcast. BRAP, I usually do you at the end, but you came at the end, so I want to make sure people know about BRAP. You know, BRAP, great BRAP on Wednesday, first of all. Second of all, you never know when a BRAP will pop up. You just
There might be one tomorrow.
That would not surprise me. Surprise levels at 10% on that, BRAP. No, I'm just kidding, buddy. Love it when you do it, buddy. It's always great. Love the banter on BRAP as well, buddy. Let everyone know where they can find you. And thanks for making it here after your family event. I appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, no, man. I thought it was gonna be later, and then I got home and whatever I did, I forgot. But I was like, oh, I can hop on CrossFire now.
Yes,
so,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's happy that I could make it. This is like my Friday happy hour, I guess. You know, like even though I don't always drink on CrossFire, it's still like hanging out with the guys and
shooting the
talking
shit.
video games.
Great stuff.
Yeah, shooting the shit, exactly. Yeah. So but no, great show, Mooch, as always. Find me at Basement Radio Arcade Podcast on YouTube or BRAP _podcast on X or Twitter, where the hell it's called today. But yeah, no, great show, Mooch, and I tell you, I'm looking forward to playing some more Spider-Man 2. It's a really good game.
Absolutely, Spider-Man 2, and then I'm going to be diving. I believe Sunday we'll be doing a Twitch stream of Alan Wake 2. I'm very excited for it's Halloween Eve, or whatever you and Babbitt were calling it. Shout out to Power Boss. Power Boss, thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. He says, "Take care, Mooch." I appreciate that, Power Boss. I appreciate each one of you guys coming here every week. Please let people know that we love to do the show, and we are going to have another podcast on the show coming up, maybe within 2 to 3 weeks. I keep kicking the can just a little bit because we got to get a little bit of work done, but. Appreciate every one of you guys being here. BRAP, thanks as well. Like I said, it really means a lot that you had an event and you still came down. That means the world to me. Thank you.
Absolutely, man.
The great gamers, Gamut. Honestly, I love talking games with you, buddy. I really do. You're a gamer at heart, and it shows it. You're just you're a great community member as well. You're all over Twitter, posting pictures of you playing games, talking games, and you're always welcome here on CrossFire. So, Gamut, let people know where they can find you. Thanks for being here tonight.
Ed, thank you so much. I appreciate being on here. I'm a long-time listener of Mooch's podcast,
Thank you.
To be here is amazing. I love it. Just to chat with everybody and get into gaming mode for the weekend every weekend is such a refreshing thing, and I feel super grateful. So thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. You can find me on Twitter at GamersGamut_YT. I'm also on YouTube at GamersGamut. I'm only there once in a while, so don't worry about all that. But I just super appreciative to be here to talk with all you great people.
Thank you, Gamut. Appreciate it. The great Red Hood 420 as well. Red, listen, let's not go this long without talking games again, buddy. Let's just not do it because
of course, bro. Like I said, it was just like you, me. Like I was like, dude, things were just not working, but finally,
we made it work.
The day.
No, we made it work, Red, and honestly, love talking video games with you as well, buddy. Love the shows that you're doing. Love the collaboration. Pardon me. Look at Mooch needs to eat. I'm starving. But the collaboration you and the great Bit are doing, BitCloud. I love what you guys are doing over there. Keep up the great work. Let people know where they can find you. And listen, Mooch is just persistent. That's how you become a Mooch. You're like, come on, Red. Red, can I borrow $5? Red, can you
like I said, dude, I always love being on CrossFire. CrossFire is really good, so everybody make sure to like and sub. But you guys can follow me on Twitter at RedHood240. Twitch, I should start streaming again starting Monday, about 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So look forward to that. Life just got in the way in terms of streaming, but definitely going to be happening. And Overlevel Podcast will be. Let me just make sure because we just had our recent episode. So November 7th. Yeah, November 7th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So
Perfect,
look forward
buddy.
to that as well.
Love it, Red. Love it. And like I said, I'll give you a week off before I start pestering you again. I'm just kidding. Not really. Red, love it, buddy.
Listen, you can pester me all you want.
I appreciate it, buddy.
Always down to be on.
Love when you're on the show, buddy. Just like I say, having you guys on is just a plethora of knowledge coming on the show. So, and I sit back a lot of times and I get to enjoy the show because you guys are here. Speaking of that, always the great Supernova as well. Super, listen, I know, shout out to the Wise Old Gamer and the crew over there. I love what you guys are saying on Twitter. You're like, how the hell did we become the 420 boys? I don't even know where that came from. I think that's just the Wise Old Gamer doing his thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Don't get me going on that 420 now. We'll turn this into a whole other podcast.
shout out to the Wise Old Gamer. Yeah, we'll get into a whole other topic on that one, Gavin. But Supernova, honestly, great to have you here, buddy. Listen, what I love about you is just this is another home away from home for you. It's a place you get to come here, speak your mind. And when something really grinds your gears, shout out to Jez as well. You get to do that here on this channel. So Nova, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing your wisdom, buddy. And let people know where they can find you.
For sure, man. Appreciate it. Anytime, like I said, I'm down to come on. You guys can find me on YouTube. I occasionally make videos. It's at Supernova Gaming. My Twitter, I will always call it Twitter. I don't give a shit what they renamed it to. It's at Gaming Supernova. Like Mooch said, I do the Wasted with Wise on the Wise Old Gamers channel, which is every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And I'm also a member of the Roundtable podcast over on King Thrash's channel. We do those more kind of sporadically whenever he decides to. I think he said that we're doing one tomorrow though, so look out for that.
Absolutely. Shout out to Thresh. Shout out to you guys at the round table. Great work you guys do over there as well. And I do want to take a second here to say shout out to the Great Gaming Forte. Forte couldn't make it tonight. He did reach out to me and say, hey, listen, I'm going to try and get there halfway through the show. If I don't, I apologize. But guys, go over and check out the Great Gaming Forte and Slow-Mo Backslap. Those guys do outstanding work at DPS Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Love what they do. Again, that's just a fun show, man. If you're not listening to DPS, you're missing out. Go over and
those
check
are two great people, man. Those are two great people.
Just wonderful people in the community. Honestly, only pushing positivity, and their opinions are fun to listen to. I just absolutely love the show. So go over and check those guys out on Thursday night. And last but certainly not least, I told the great Button Basher I'd give him a plug as well. Go over and check him out on YouTube. It's Button Basher Gaming. And it's an outstanding, he's got some great podcasts that he did with his buddy Vance. And these guys are just really, really good. They have a great banter back and forth. He puts videos out. Go over and check out Button Basher Gaming. And like I say, we'll see Basher next Friday here with me, hopefully Forte, and the great Basement Radio Arcade podcast. That being said, guys, Spider-Man, Mario, Alan Wake, it doesn't end. We got more games coming out in the weeks to come. It's going to be phenomenal right up to the holidays. Please hit the like button. Go over and follow me as well. I haven't plugged it enough. But now that Twitch is allowing co-streaming, which I'll talk to Red about sometime later tonight or this week, you can do YouTube and you can do Twitch without getting in trouble on Twitch. So I'm going to try doing both this Sunday. It's Mooch TV everywhere. Here, Twitch, M-O-O. It's Mooch TV. Drop the O's for zeros. 00CHTV. It's going to be great, guys. Go over and follow me on Twitch. Follow me here if you aren't. And we'll see you guys next Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Peace out. Enjoy your video games this weekend. We'll see you next week.